Hello, everyone. Nice to see you on my channel, Touching Stories. Today you will hear an amazing story that is based on real events. It's a drama that will be a very important lesson for everyone.
An ordinary working day in the same place and team did not foreshadow anything unusual. Taking his workplace, Archie turned on his computer and started working, as usual catching Veronica's glances, which she threw at him furtively. The whole office knew that Veronica was in love with him, and Archie found it irritating. Colleagues often teased him, and he was unpleasant. Archie, of course, joked about it, but in his heart, that was striking. He is a free man, prominent, quite well-to-do. Not so long ago bought an apartment, albeit on the outskirts of the city, but a two-bedroom. And Veronica, not his type at all. You could walk past her on the street and not notice her. He didn't like fat women at all, and even with the baggage of a 4-year-old daughter. One should choose according to oneself, and not take a chance on something that costs an order of magnitude higher, so he thought. Yura, the economist from the neighboring office, was just the perfect match for Veronica. A bald, chubby guy with a pot belly and glasses. But even he doesn't pay attention to Veronica. Probably doesn't pick him out for himself, either. There'd be fewer lonely people if everyone chose their soulmate of the same level. You going to lunch? Archie heard Harvey's voice working at the table next to him and looked at his watch. It was already lunchtime, too. He stretched and rose from his chair. Let's go. They left the office and rushed toward the elevator as suddenly. Archie blinked a few times, thinking he was dreaming, but no, it was real. A girl he'd never seen before was walking toward them, and if he had, he wouldn't have been able to forget her. She looked like she had stepped off the cover of a glossy magazine. Her blonde, wavy hair fell over her naked, graceful shoulders, and the figure that was encased in the pink dress, the slim waist, the wide hips, the breasts. Archie thought she was between a size 2 and 3. Beautiful face, perfect makeup, manicure, that dress, thin stiletto sandals. Everything about her was perfect. Archie admired the girl, unable to take his eyes off her, and he wasn't the only one. Other men, present here, also as mesmerized, looked at this goddess. But the goddess, not noticing anyone, continued on her way. She passed by Archie and Harvey without even looking at them, and they turned around. "What a doll," said Harvey in a whisper, almost drooling. "What an ass." Archie, too, noticed her rounded ass, which was tightened by the dress. Perfect. A bombshell. Where did she come from? He kept standing in one place as if hypnotized. Probably works here. Probably just got here. Harvey said, "Get out of here before lunch is over." There was no ring on her finger, so she wasn't married, said Archie, still holding his posture, though the girl had already turned down another corridor and was out of sight. "Did you get a good look at that?" Harvey wondered. "I saw everything." "Harvey, I won't be able to sleep now." "You better go to sleep. We're not going to get a hottie like that." Archie looked at his colleague in bewilderment. "Why is that?" "I'll never rest until I get to know her. I've lost my appetite." "Are you just going to stand there?" Harvey grinned. "Come on, let's go." Archie turned and walked toward the elevator. The stranger was in front of his eyes, and he was still under hypnosis. After lunch, it was extremely difficult to work further, because all thoughts were far from work, and the rest of the day he thought only of her, and he could not sleep for a long time. The next day at work, he hurried like a holiday, with the firm intention to find out who and where this unearthly beauty came from. Actually to find out, and did not have to. "Have you seen what star is now working next door to us?" asked Yura, a colleague of Harvey and Archie. "Archie went into a stupor when we saw it," answered Harvey. "All the men in the business center seem to be into it. Bombastic hottie. Anyway, works in the 3002 office, name's Marion." "What a name," Archie said. "I'd like to meet her." "That's a big one. There's a lot of competition out there." "Show me someone who wouldn't," said Yura. But when at lunch at one of the tables, Archie saw her accompanied by 2 girls who paled in comparison with Marion. He couldn't help but approach and get acquainted. "I would never have forgiven myself if I had not met you," he said, looking only at her. "Marion," the girl answered indifferently, rather even waved away, making a slightly annoyed expression on her face. "Can we go somewhere after work? Any place of your choice," he answered, being determined to win this beauty by all means. Otherwise, there would be no rest for him. I have other plans. I'm sorry, answered Marian. The day after tomorrow? Archie didn't give up. I don't think so, she said. Then maybe on the weekend? Not on the weekend either. Archie, I don't think you'll like the places I like to go, she said in a somewhat condescending tone. I'm sure she would. Let's go anywhere you like. Well, Marian smiled a little, and her eyes sparkled slyly. Then on Saturday at the restaurant Turandot, do you know it? No, but I'd love to go there with you. Archie was so happy he could fly to the moon and leave a phone number. Marian took a pen out of her purse and wrote her phone number on a napkin. Thank you, Archie replied, putting the napkin in his pocket. He spent the rest of the day in a good mood, looking forward to their meeting on Saturday. He bragged to Harvey about his little victory. You better look at the price tag in this resto before you get excited, he replied. You can't spare any money for a girl like that, answered Archie, but typed in the name of the restaurant in the search engine. Immediately going to the menu section, he whistled a little. Yeah, that's what I told you, said Harvey. Hey, 10 grand a plate. Fucking awesome. Archie scratched the back of his head thoughtfully. I told you this girl ain't for the likes of us. You want a pretty girl like that, you got to spend some money. I don't believe she has no one. There's no way she doesn't have a man. It's up to you. If you don't have the money, take her out to a restaurant. I doubt very much you'll be going to a room afterwards. Well, maybe not so fast, but it's still Sunday. Archie wasn't exactly thrilled with the prices at the Turandot, but he wanted Marian so badly that he was willing to splurge. Will there be anything left to go out for on Sunday? I'll figure it out, he answered. The next day, when Archie came to have lunch in a cafe located on the first floor of the business center, he stared in surprise at the table where Marian sat in the company. Actually, it was the company of the girl caused him such a perplexity. Next to the object of his dreams sat Veronica. What could be the society of a queen with a washerwoman? That's exactly the association he had in mind at that moment. Do you see that? He asked Harvey. See what? He didn't understand. What's what? Marian is having lunch with our Veronica. So what? Who knows who's having lunch with whom? He answered. Archie did not answer anything and went to the table where the most beautiful woman in the world was having lunch. Good afternoon, Marian. Do you mind if my friend and I join you? He asked. Marian strained her memory, but did not remember the man's name. Veronica and I would like to talk alone. I'm sorry, she replied, rewarding him with a discreet smile. But Saturday is still on, I hope. He asked, a little disappointed. If you haven't changed your mind, yes, she said. Of course I haven't changed my mind. Archie went back to Harvey. Of course you have. I'm dreaming about this Saturday, he thought. Her eyes, the most beautiful eyes he ever seen. They were mesmerizing, maddening. He was drowning in them, having looked into them only a moment ago. What's up? Did you blow him off? Harvey asked him. They need to talk to Veronica. About what? That's what Marian can talk to Veronica about, he said in surprise, looking at the table he just stepped away from. I'd ask, Harvey replied. How do you envision it? I don't know. What difference does it make? Taking trays of food, Archie and Nikolai sat down at a vacant table. I'll ask Veronica after lunch, said Archie. You shouldn't be doing this. You're not going to get anywhere with that, Marian, said Harvey. Archie frowned and looked at his colleague. I'll die for her, but she'll be mine, Archie replied somewhat irritably. After all, he was not a pauper, and he was not lacking in looks, but Harvey was beginning to get annoyed. He must be jealous, because he was probably drooling over Marian too. But he wouldn't go for it, because with his beer belly it would be ridiculous to approach such a girl. When Archie came back from lunch, he immediately approached Veronica. Veronica, have you met Marian? He asked, sitting down on the edge of her table. Uh-huh, she answered as she continued to stare at the monitor. She had been in love with Archie for a long time, and she knew it wasn't reciprocated, but it was still very unpleasant to see him drooling over Marian. Veronica realized that she was not beautiful, and to Marian she was like to the moon, but do not love just for looks. And from where? Asked Archie. We went to the same school, she answered. What a small world. Listen, Veronica, does she have a man now? Veronica looked at Archie with undisguised surprise. I'm not in the habit of asking people about their personal lives. I understand, but it's important to me. And I have a huge favor to ask of you. One of these days, you could ask Marion if she likes me. Not for nothing, of course. I owe you a treat." "Archie, I'm not going to do that," Veronica said a little harshly. "Please." He looked at her with a look of pleading. "Archie, lunch is over. Go to your workplace." "I will. Veronica, please help me. It's a matter of life and death." "Okay, I will, but just go away." "You're the best," Archie replied cheerfully and went to his desk, while Veronica continued to work. And on Thursday and Friday, Veronica watched how Archie's eyes light up when he sees Marion. And no man had ever looked at her like that before. That's what it means to be beautiful, she thought, sighing sadly. A man like Archie would never pay attention to a gray mouse like her. The long-awaited Saturday came, and Archie was looking forward to the evening to finally meet the girl of his dreams in an informal setting, thinking at the same time about how to continue the evening and at the same time the night at his house. This girl had been on his mind ever since he'd seen her, and he'd never wanted anything in his life more than he wanted her. All his previous girls had not been bad-looking either, but none of them could compare with Marion. When it was time to leave the house, Archie felt an excitement he had never felt before when going on a date. On the way to the flower store, he bought a bouquet of white roses and then drove to the place where he and Marion had agreed to meet. Of course, when he got there, she wasn't there. Archie was prepared to wait for her as long as it took. The most important thing was that she come out without suddenly changing her mind about meeting him. His Ford, which he had washed the day before, was sparkling, and the interior had never been as clean as it was now. In general, Archie prepared thoroughly. Even the apartment was in perfect order, so as not to fall into disgrace when he brought Marion there. The people were going here and there, and Archie looked around, not knowing from which front door she would come out. Finally, Marion appeared, and he got out of the car immediately, taking the bouquet in his hands. The girl approached him, and he looked at her as if mesmerized, admiring this perfect beauty. "Hi, this is for you," said. He held out the bouquet to Marion when she approached him. "Thank you," she replied, smiling favorably, taking the roses from his hands. "You look stunning as always," Archie said, and opened the door of his car, inviting Marion to sit down. When she was seated in the front seat, he took his place behind the wheel. "There's one question that's been bugging me. How did you get into our business center?" he asked. "You should enter a beauty contest. I'm sure first place will be yours." "Well, I got into the business center probably like everyone else. I got a job in one of the offices, and the career of modeling in beauty contests I was never too interested in, although I have such experience, but a small. There were contests on the internet where I took the first places, or rather my photos did. And that's not surprising," Archie replied. "All the men in the business center are crazy about you. I can't imagine what it's like for those who work in the same office with you. I'm used to male attention and I take it calmly. And at work, I work and I don't care who's crazy about me. I can imagine how many men's hearts you've broken." "Aren't you afraid I'll break yours?" With a sleek smile, replied Marion. "I'm afraid, and I'd hate to do that," Archie admitted. "What would you want?" "Well, I think you know the answer to that question." Archie turned his head toward Marion for a moment and smiled meaningfully. "Oh yes, to get me in bed. That's what you're counting on after the restaurant. And if I say right now that we will not go to your place and there will be no sex," just like that. Archie got a little tense. She cut everything off at once, and he can't sleep at night thinking about her. "And you decided that if we go to a restaurant with you, I'll spread my legs right away." Marion grinned. "Why so rude? After all, if you agreed to go with me, it means that you also like me, so why stall? But no is no, although it's not easy for me to get over it. So despite my refusal to continue the banquet in your bed, are we still going to the restaurant, or are you going to drive me back home?" No. Besides, we're almost there, and I really hope you change your mind. I'm not in the habit of sleeping with men for food." "It's not like that. Here we are." Archie parked the car in the parking lot of the restaurant. He got out first and opened the door on the side where Marion was sitting, offering her his hand. Archie didn't particularly like the royal style. He was more of a fan of high-tech style rather than flashy pomp. The excess of gold around was jarring, but for Marion's sake, he was willing to go anywhere as long as she liked it. They sat down at a table, and Archie thought only of how he could get her to go to this house after the restaurant. His imagination was full of pictures of their stormy night, and he was filled with an excitement that he couldn't put out. Opening the menu, Archie hoped that Marianne would not order the most expensive dishes. He himself did not want to order anything, but he realized that he had to, otherwise she would understand the reason, especially there were dishes at quite humane prices. So choosing 2 dishes with a total cost of just over $2,000, he hoped that Marianne would make a choice in the same price category. "Have you made up your mind?" he asked, not stopping to devour with his eyes her breasts, slightly protruding from the neckline. "Yes," she replied, closing the menu. The waiter came up to them. "I would like black cod, eggplant with foie gras and truffles, Thai rice with shrimp, vanilla mango cream and blackberries. And from the drinks, a martini royale." Archie swallowed nervously, estimating that it was 10,000 if not more. Marianne's modesty is not notable, or she did it on purpose. "But I don't care. This girl is worth it," he thought, and voiced his modest choice. "Do you come here often?" he asked as the waiter left to take their order. "I go to different places every weekend. This restaurant is one of my favorites," she replied. "How else do you like to spend your time?" "Very different. What about you?" "I don't have anyone to hang out with, so I don't go out much." "What are your plans for tomorrow?" "I don't know yet. What do you want to propose?" "I want to suggest that we meet again, because otherwise I'll suffer all day without you," he said. "I'll think about it," Marianne replied condescendingly. Archie did not like this answer, but he only smiled, continuing to admire her. After all, he still will not rest until this girl will not be his, and he is used to achieve what he wants, so this time he will win, even if you have to spend a lot. But Marianne will be in his bed not today, so tomorrow. Although even today is not all lost, he thought. "I can't resist a question," said Archie, not taking his eyes off his beautiful companion for a moment. "What do you want to ask?" she asked, taking a sip of her martini. "Are you single now? You're not seeing anyone?" Archie was worried, but he hoped for the right answer. "If I was, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now," Marianne replied. "Glad to hear it, but surprised. How is this possible? After all, you must have 1,000,000 fans at least." "Well, and they are enough. I wouldn't date just anyone. Would you date me?" Archie couldn't stand it. Marianne smiled broadly. "Isn't it too early to ask? I don't know you yet, and neither do you know me. What I know is enough for me, and I hope it will be enough time to get to know me, because I'm ready to pay attention to you every day. You only need my looks. I know men love with their eyes, but with women it's different. We look at other things." "And what things do you look at?" he asked. "A man should be reliable, that with it, as behind a stone wall, that could solve my problems. Well, also honesty, purposefulness, loyalty, generosity. All this is difficult to find in one person, and I'm not used to change," answered Marianne. "And I'm just like that," with a smile on his lips boasted Archie. In words, everyone is like that, especially when they want to get into bed. But in reality, it turns out that it is not. It's impossible not to want someone like you. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but it's normal. Can I ask why your last relationship ended? So many questions the first time we met. You're so nosy, a little flirtatiously replied Marianne. "I have serious plans for you." "Marianne, I'm just crazy about you. I will not humor. I want everything at once, but ready to wait and fulfill all your whims." "Well, it still needs to be checked, and not so fast everything and immediately. Why are you single? What's wrong with your ex-girlfriend? Or you to her?" "We quarreled a lot, couldn't come to an understanding." "What was it exactly?" "I wasn't ready to marry her and have kids." "Maybe I want to marry and have children," then said Marianne. "On you ready even tomorrow?" Archie answered, and the girl laughed a little. How many times she had heard something like that, and on the fingers cannot count. "I mean it," said Archie. "I'm sure you are. I've answered your question. What was your ex's mistake?" "There was too much of him, and a man should have his own space. I'm not someone's property or a dog that has to sit at his feet all the time. Then there's the jealousy. I can't stand that. Relationships without trust are impossible." Celine, the night fairy's name, was punctual. Archie looked at her with an appraising gaze and invited her into the room. The girl was not a bad-looking girl, but she was far from the object of his desire. Since Archie's pants were already boiling, without further ado, he immediately got down to business, pouncing on Selena. The first time was very fast, but it was immediately followed by the second, and after a short break in the third. Of course, he pictured Marion in front of him, and Selena had a similar figure and long blonde hair too. "How hungry you are," Selena said in a panting voice as the third time came to a close. "It's been a while," he replied. "Will you keep me overnight?" Archie looked at his watch. It had been an hour and a half since Selena had arrived at his place. The charge was $9,000 for 3 hours and $15,000 for the night. He decided it was better to save money and go with 3 hours. 3 hours would be enough. Only half of that time had passed. Archie lay on his back and put his hands behind his head and closed his eyes. "Make me feel good," he said, and Selena immediately got to work. Archie groaned slightly and presented Marion again. A languid smile appeared on his lips and his mood soared. At least now he would be able to go out with Marion without sex for a while, without the risk of pouncing on her like a crazed male. As Selena left after 3 hours, Archie thought about the fact that he'd have to pay less on his mortgage this month. He paid it off early, paying 3 installments a month, and with that, he had 2.5 years to pay it off. But it was good for him. He had a full discharge, so he would be able to sleep well at night. He was looking forward to tomorrow, but the only thing that was bothering him was the next expense. Archie turned on the computer again to look up the prices for skydiving, and then he'd have to go to the restroom again. Archie was afraid to tell Marion that he wouldn't last that long, for God forbid she might scare him off, but he had to limit his expenses, and he thought about how to do it carefully without losing Marion. Sunday. Archie picked up Marion and took her to an extreme event for which he had purchased a discount coupon yesterday. The pleasure cost $9,500 in tandem with an instructor, and Archie decided to refrain from jumping. It was too expensive. Noticing Marion, Archie immediately got out of the car and opened the door for her. The girl was no less beautiful in her sports clothes than in her evening gown. "You look divine as always," said Archie. "I try," she replied with a smile. "Aren't you scared? You haven't changed your mind?" "No. I'm mentally and physically ready." "Then let's go." Archie got behind the wheel and started on the road. "After the jump, we can go for a little walk. We're going out of town. There's a forest and a lake," he said. "Good. We can take a short walk. And then?" "Afterward, wherever you want to go. I'm all yours for the day. We can grab a bite to eat and catch a movie." "Whatever you say," Archie said. "Where do you want to go for a bite to eat?" He really hoped that this time not to such an expensive place. Marion shrugged her shoulders. "It's up to you," she replied, and Archie exhaled in relief. He looked at cafes near where they were going and found a good and budget option. That's where he decided to take Marion after their event. Marion got out of the car and looked up at the sky where parachutes were floating with a smile. "Awesome," she pronounced and looked at Archie. "Shall we go?" "Let's go," he said. The instructor came toward them and soon Marion was sitting in the airplane. "You've got a lot to lose," she said to Archie, because he had already voiced that he would not jump. "I don't want to, especially in a tandem. And no one will let a beginner jump on his own," he answered. "Do you need a photo and video?" asked the instructor. "Of course," replied Marion. Archie didn't show any sign that he wasn't thrilled with the idea. "You can pay afterward," said the instructor before entering the airplane. Archie stayed on the ground and watched as the plane took off, and then Marion jumped out of it in tandem with the instructor. The whole event took very little time, and soon the girl was walking towards him, smiling wholeheartedly. "This is just fantastic," she said. "Incredibly cool." She began to fix her disheveled hair. "I'm glad you like it," Archie said. "I'm going to go change." Marion went to the hangar, and Archie was approached by the instructor. "In an hour and a half, we'll be ready photos and video," he said. "How much do I owe you?" asked Archie. 10 photos and video on a disc of $1,500. "Can I use the card?" "By wire." "Okay." Archie transferred the money and went to the hangar to wait for Marion, who came out about 10 minutes later. "The photos and videos will have to wait a little longer. Let's take a walk to the lake." "Come on," she answered. They walked leisurely through a field leading to a forest where there was a small lake. Archie took Marion's hand gently, hoping that she would let him at least walk with her like this. And to his delight, she did not pull her hand out. "I found a cozy little place nearby where we can have lunch after the walk," he said. "That's great. Do they have ice cream? I'm really craving some." "I think so, but if not, we'll find it later. See, I'm ready to fulfill your every desire." He stopped and turned the girl around to face him. "Don't you deserve even a kiss so far?" he asked, looking hopefully into the eyes of the object of his dreams. "We've known each other for a day and a half. I can't do that right away," she answered, pretending to be a little embarrassed. "How much time do you need?" he asked, trying to hide his disappointment. "Just a kiss." He's already spent so much dough on her, and she can't even kiss him. "Don't rush me. Archie, I like you, but we need to get to know each other, not all at once. I'm not used to it, and I don't want to do it." "Then marry me and we'll get to know each other." "You're quick. Come right out." She laughed a little. "Do you have a place to live?" "Yes, I have a 2-bedroom, so I have an apartment, I have a car, I earn a decent income, and I'm ready to start a family." "I'll take that into account." Marian carefully took her hand out of his hand and reached for the sun, closed her eyes and directed her face to its gentle rays. "That's good. Let's talk about something else, because you're talking about one thing at a time," she added. "That's because I can't think about anything but you. I can neither sleep nor eat. I suffer," he answered. "How much?" she asked flirtatiously. "Very much." "Are you serious about marriage?" "Quite. I'm ready to take you to the registry office right now." "No, not now," she said. "Let's go to the lake." They went forward again, and Archie's chest was once more aflame. No girl had the same effect on him as Marian. After admiring the lake for a while, they went back and, taking the photo and the disc with the video, went to the cafe. There Archie left $2,500, having fed Marian with delicious ice cream. But there was still a movie ahead, and together with the parachute and the photo shoot, it was still a lot of money. Every weekend, he would not be able to afford it, so he had to hint to Marian, and it was better to offer some kind of vacation that would not hit his pocket. When they got to the mall, they took tickets to the movie, which cost Archie $1,400, because Marian wanted to watch the movie in 3D and on the sofa. It was a full 40 minutes before the show, so Marian suggested they walk around the mall. "Wow," she exclaimed, looking at the display of small handbags. "I've wanted one of those for a long time," she said. Seeing the price tag of $12,000, Archie swallowed hard. That's definitely too much, or she's just trying to cheat him. Like kissing and sex, so it's early, and such gifts to beg, so nothing normal. "When's your birthday?" he asked. "In 7 months," she answered and went into the department, immediately asking the salesman to shove her bag closer. Archie's forehead broke into a sweat. There was no way he was going to buy her a bag, he thought, but he was still afraid of scaring Marian away and was on the verge of panic. Spinning the handbag in his hands, Marian said that it was perfect and she could not buy it. The girl went to the cash register, and Archie had no idea what to do. Nervously looking at the exit from the department, he followed her. But then Marian took out a bank card and paid for the bag herself. Archie immediately exhaled. He felt incredibly relieved. After paying, Marian handed the bag with her new clothes to Archie. "There was one more place I wanted to visit while I had time," she said, pulling him along with her. It was a lingerie store. Grabbing a few sets, Marian went to the fitting room. "I wish I could take one look," Archie thought, imagining her half naked in one of the sets. His body was tense again, as if yesterday's release had never happened, except he didn't want any more Celine. He only wanted Marian. Soon the girl came out of the fitting room and put 2 sets of lingerie on the register, the cost of which turned out to be a little over $15,000. "That's a lot," she said in a frustrated tone, twirling both sets in her hands and trying to make an incredibly difficult choice in favor of one. "I'll have to go with one." "Oh," she sighed sadly, continuing to twirl the underwear in her hands. Watching Marian almost crying, unable to make a choice, Archie cursed to himself and pulled out his bank card. "We'll take both," he said, putting the card to the terminal and watching $15,250 fly out of his account. Then he looked at his watch. The movie was 15 minutes away, and that was good, or God forbid he'd make another turn. Handing Archie the laundry bag, Marian pecked him on the cheek, rewarding him with a charming smile. "Thank you," she said. "I hope to see you in one of them in the near future." Archie replied, "Now it's time to go see the movie." "Let's go," she answered, taking him under her arm. Archie watched the men squinting at his companion, and he was filled with pride that he was walking under the arm of such a beauty. Proudly raising his head and smiling, he led Marian to the elevator. He carefully wiped off his 3D glasses and gave them to Marian, and when the movie started, he allowed himself to put his arm around her shoulder and she let him do it, which gave Archie hope that everything would work out with the girl of his dreams. "What did you think of the movie?" Archie asked as they walked out of the theater. "I liked it a lot. How about you?" "It was okay. I liked it," he said. "Shall we have coffee?" "Sure." There were a lot of small cafes on the third floor, in one of which they had coffee and cakes, and then Archie drove Marian home. Before the girl left his car, he got bolder and kissed her himself before she could realize it. "I'm crazy about you," he whispered after that brief kiss. "Why haven't you come to my place?" "Archie, don't rush me," she said seriously. Marian responded to this kiss, but pulled Archie away from her as his hands crawled to her breasts. "If I survive, you have no idea what's happening to me right now," he replied, leaning back in his seat. The girl smiled indulgently. "I'll see you tomorrow. Lunch together?" "Sure," he answered and took her hand and touched his lips to it. "I'll be up all night thinking about you." "See you tomorrow," said Marian and kissed him lightly on the lips. "A little bonus," she whispered and left his car. Archie closed his eyes and sighed. This is what he's going to do in this state, he thought. He's screwed. There's no way he'll give up now. Marian will be his, but just how to speed up the process. Harvey approached Archie as soon as he sat down at his workplace. "It's up to you. I'll eat whatever your beautiful hands can cook." Archie stopped the car at the nearest supermarket and taking the cart from the entrance, he and Marian went into the store. "Should we bake some trout and fry some potatoes and a vegetable salad?" asked Marian. "That's fine. Let's do it." Marian started to put the groceries in the cart, except that besides the trout and vegetables, there were shrimps, expensive juice, cheese, olive oil, sausage, scallops, a piece of beef, and many other things. Archie realized that Marian had decided to stock her empty refrigerator. Having laid out at the cash register about $11,000, he regretted 100 times that he had asked to have dinner at her house, because in a cafe it would have cost him much cheaper. Save, he swore to himself, dragging the grocery bags to the car. Once in Marian's apartment, Archie gasped. A posh 3-bedroom with a huge hallway and kitchen, furnished with expensive furniture and tastefully decorated. "And you live alone in a place like this?" He was surprised. "Yes." "Did you inherit it?" "No. Only part of the down payment. The rest was taken in the mortgage, but there is still half a year to pay. I spent almost my entire paycheck on it. My ex used to pay the down payment, but now I'm on my own. I'll pay it off and then I can breathe, because now I'm restricting myself." "How big is the payment?" "I'm paying $70,000 a month to pay it off. I'm paying it off early too. Why do you need a place like this on your own? I won't always be alone. Are you ready to let a man into your territory?" Archie was surprised. "Why not? So, if anything, and kick out easier." Marian laughed. "Let's go cook dinner." Having filled the refrigerator with food, Marian started with the fish and Archie asked her to peel the potatoes. The two of them did it quickly and in a little over an hour dinner was ready. Delicious," said Archie, savoring a piece of trout. "I'm a good cook," Marian boasted. "You have no flaws. That's why I dream of marrying you," said Archie. "Everyone has flaws," replied Marian. "Tell me about yours," Archie said. "You're so sly, so I'll tell you all my secrets at once," she answered cheerfully. "Just a little bit." I am very demanding to men, although it is rather a virtue who looks at it." "I've already realized that. What else?" "Now you tell me." "A little sloppy, but for your sake I'll make up for it," Archie replied. Finished with dinner, Marian put the dirty dishes in the dishwasher and sat down at the table again. "Will you pick me up tomorrow morning?" she asked. "Or maybe we can drive from here together." Archie got up from his chair and squatted down next to Marian. He took her hands in his and started kissing her. "I love you, don't I?" he whispered. "Archie," she began to say, but he didn't give her a chance to continue, his lips on hers. He was seized with a frenzy of desire. He lifted Marion from the chair and took her in his arms, and without leaving her lips, carried her to the nearest room. The girl resisted, but he continued on, ignoring her until he had her on the bed and Marion had the finesse to kick him in the groin. "What are you doing?" he moaned, bending in half. "What were you doing?" Roughly she asked and got up from the bed. "You're acting like an animal. Go away, Archie." "An animal? It's normal for people to want physical intimacy with the one they love. If you don't like me, why are you torturing me? We've only known each other for 3 days. Torture you? I told you 100 times I can't do it this fast. I'd asked you not to rush me, you promised, but you just pounced on me like a maniac. I'm sorry, I can't control myself when you're around." The pain subsided and Archie got up from the bed. "I'm sorry, I couldn't help it." "Oh, okay. Come on, you have to go." Archie left the room and followed Marion to the door. Before leaving her apartment, he looked at the girl with eyes full of longing and pain. "Have you forgiven me?" he whispered. "Forgiven?" Marion came up and kissed him lightly on the lips, and then whispered in his ear, "Don't rush it." A shiver ran through his entire body as her lips touched his earlobe. "My body reacts to you in a certain way and I can't control it. I want you," he confessed. "Don't get yourself worked up. Archie, I like you, I told you. But you're in too much of a hurry. It's stressful. It's hard to control myself around you. I'll go then." Lowering his head, he said, and Marion kissed him lightly on the lips again. Archie tried to hug her, but she immediately pulled away from him. "See you tomorrow," she said, smiling meaningfully. "See you tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you in the yard in the morning." "Okay," she replied. Archie sat in the car and wrapped his arms around his head. What a bitch, he thought. A dynamo. All she does is make money and keep him on a short leash, telling him that they got it all ahead of them. He'd be ruined before he got there. He'll have to get up an hour earlier to pick up Marion. After sitting like that for a few minutes, he drove home. When he entered the apartment, he immediately took a cold shower to cool down a little, to call Sveta or anyone else. He did not want to spend money, especially since, thanks to Marion, they were flying away at a breakneck speed. And he didn't want anyone but her. In the morning, having had breakfast, Archie called Marion and told her that he was leaving. A little less than an hour later, he was standing in her driveway. "Hi," she said cheerfully as she approached the car. "Hi," he replied, squeezing out a smile. The girl kissed him on the lips and got into the car. They drove halfway in silence. "Are you angry with me?" she asked. "No, it just hurts," he answered, and she immediately realized what place he was talking about and smiled, not answering anything. "Are we going to lunch together today?" she asked. "Sure," he replied. "Will I see you at the weekend? My friends are calling me for a barbecue. I wanted to offer you to come with me. A friend has a summer house. Will you come with me both days?" "I'll think about it," replied Marion. She did not particularly complain about such trips to strangers. "I have normal friends, all with girlfriends, by the way. I've already told them that I'm coming with my girlfriend." "You did?" she asked. "That's what I said." "That's what he said." "All right then, I'll do it. Let's go." Archie immediately smiled. When they reached the business center, they went inside, holding hands, and Archie again watched the envious glances of the men in the center. Once they reached the right floor, they said their goodbyes until lunch and dispersed to their offices. On Wednesday, Marion said she was going out with a friend in the evening, so Archie didn't need to drive her home. The man was tense at first, wondering if it was with a friend, but when he saw that after work Marion was met by a girl in a Volvo, he immediately relaxed. Before getting into the car, Marion kissed him on the cheek. "See you tomorrow," she said, rewarding Archie with her charming smile. "See you tomorrow," he replied, escorting her with his gaze until her friend's car disappeared around the corner. "Is this your new one?" asked Alexandra, Marion's best friend, when they drove away from the business center. "So, another sucker," she answered and laughed. "This sucker drools on you so normally," she said. "Oh, guess he could use a bib." "How long have you been playing?" "Not long. At first I thought he might be normal, but he's not. He's got one thing on his mind." It's funny to see his face change every time he spends money on me, and he spends it on his own initiative," answered Marian. "Poor guy," with a smile said her friend. "Well would say as it is, there is not so much though. I cannot pull such expenses." And he is silent, gritting his teeth and paying for everything, anticipating how to fuck me, thinking that I am obviously sold. So why are you wasting your time with him? I wonder when he'll run out. I'm not gonna sleep with him. You're having fun. Alexander replied with a smile. A little. How are you doing? I'm good. The usual? There's interesting news. The girl smiled enigmatically. We're here. Let's sit down at a table and I'll tell you about it. Alexandra parked at a small restaurant, and getting out of the car, the friends entered it, sitting down at a table which they had reserved in advance. Billy is coming for good in a week, said Alexandra, and from Marian's lips immediately fell a smile. I'm not interested, she answered dryly, taking the menu in her hands. That's not all. He's divorced, her friend continued. Wow. It happens. Oh, come on. Can't you see why? I don't want to understand and I don't care about his life. Don't lie to me. He's already rented an office here and he's hiring. So he left his beautiful life in Florida and came home. And you didn't believe he was getting a divorce. I still don't. Let's not talk about him. I mean, he'll be here soon. Just wait. Marian looked at her friend and smiled haughtily. Why did you bring him up? You only spoiled my mood, she said. You dreamed not so long ago that he divorced. And now it happened. And you are not happy, Alexandra answered. It's been over a year. I've been rethinking a lot of things. Fallen out of love? Marian, but you are just made for each other. But he could not leave his wife then. He would if he really loved me. That's it. Marian wrinkled her nose and waved her hand. Change the record. It's your business, of course. He was asking about you. Alexander, I understand that he's your husband's best friend and all that. But don't make excuses for him. I'm not. And you knew Billy was married when it started. He was gonna get a divorce when he found out Suma was seriously ill. How do you leave a sick person? And now that she's healthy, I guess he decided to do it. Good for him. But the train's gone. You know how many tears I shed for him. I'm not going to cry over any man ever again. Never again. But with all sorts of suckers you waste time and on the money they put down. Alexandra shook her head disapprovingly. Fools should be taught. And they put themselves down themselves. Don't give Billy my phone number and tell him where I work. I don't want to see him. He'll find you without me, especially if he knows where you live. A waiter approached the girls, interrupting their conversation. Ready to order? He asked. I'll have the crab, lamb salad, lavender raspberry creme fraiche, orange juice, and berry tea, said Marian. I'll have the same. But instead of lamb salad, I'll have sturgeon. Alexandra made her order and turned to her friend again. How do you work at the new place? Why do you need it at all? I wanted to. Normal work, like everyone else, replied Marian, understanding where the friend is going. And the money that Billy sends you, do not you spend? No, I haven't even looked at that bill. When he gets here, he can have it all. I don't want nothing from him. He's a benefactor. Thinks money will throw money, and I, as Penelope, will wait for him to condescend to me. Proudly strun her nose, said Marian. And yet you are wrong about him. Well, let's not argue. He will come here. You'll figure out your relationship. I forget what his name is. You know, the one you dated for 6 months. Did he back off? He is. You're Othello. There are no normal men, Sasha, no. Well, my arsony is quite normal, so don't generalize. She said about her husband Alexandra and added, Billy too, by the way. Well, consider yourself lucky, and please stop. That's it. Change of subject. Marian said irritably. The waiter brought their order, and the girls began to eat. Marian's thoughts were now completely occupied with Billy, the only man she really loved, but she had broken off the relationship with him a little over a year ago. Billy was a friend of Alexandra's husband and lived in Florida, occasionally visiting on business. That's how he and Marian had met one day on another of his visits. Billy had all the qualities that should have had an ideal man for Marian, except that Billy was married and the role of mistress did not suit the girl. Favorite promised to divorce, but his wife was seriously ill. What exactly Marian did not know, because she did not need these details. In the end, Billy asked to wait, promised that later, when she recovered, that he could not leave her in such a difficult moment, but he loved only Marion. All excuses, she thought then. Old as the world, they broke up, and then tears and pain, disappointment, depression, loss of interest in life. Billy called, came to visit, begged her not to tear things up like that, begged her to give him some time. But Marion was adamant, it was now or never, and he never got divorced. And so a friend opened an old wound, making her remember the past and feel again the echoes of the pain she had experienced then. Thursday morning, Archie picked up Marion. That she did not look as she always did. He noticed at once. She looked as if she had cried all night, which was almost true. "Marion, what is it?" he asked anxiously. "Nothing. Everything is fine," she answered and got into the car. "Have you been crying?" "It was my allergies," she lied and smiled. "It'll go away. I already took a pill." "You sure?" "I'm sure." Marion took out her makeup bag from her new purse and started to put on her makeup. She'd been up half the night and had almost overslept for work. There was no time to put on makeup, so she had to go like that, with puffy and slightly red eyes. "How'd it go with your girlfriend?" Archie asked while Marion was putting on her makeup. "Fine. We went to a wonderful restaurant. It's very good. Shall we have dinner there tonight?" she asked. Archie tensed up. "I'd love to, but I can't tonight." He lied. "I have to help my parents, I promised, so I'll drop you home after work and go straight to them." "Some other time then," she answered calmly. When they got to the business center, they went to the offices, agreeing, as in all the last days, to go to lunch together. "So, is our star still dynamiting you?" asked Harvey Archie when he returned from lunch. "At the weekend we go to my friend's dacha near Tver. Everything will be there," smugly answered the man. "Are you sure?" "Sure. Nature, kebab, booze. We'll sleep in the same room. And if she agreed to go like this, she already agrees to have sex. How much longer can we keep dragging this out? It's obvious she likes me, so envy me, Harvey. Not everyone can have a girl like that." Archie had a smug smile on his lips. "Don't get too excited before you've had your chance," Harvey replied. "Don't be jealous," said Archie and stared at the monitor. Friday. Getting into Archie's car, Marion sighed sadly and looked at the man. "Archie, I'm so sorry, but I won't be able to go to your friend's dacha," sadly she said, and Archie felt a chill inside him. "What's wrong? Why?" he asked, trying to contain his indignation. "Here." Marion showed her hand, and Archie didn't realize what was wrong. "What?" he asked, looking at the girl's fingers. "The nail is broken. It's not proper to ride with nails like that." "Well, and something else," she answered. "That's not the reason. If it's so important to you, after work we'll stop by the salon and get your nails done." "What else?" "Well, I started something this morning." Archie knew what she was talking about right away. He felt like smoke was coming out of his ears. "This is just a joke," he thought. "That's no reason either," he answered, though it was a reason. Marion had made it clear that there would be no sex again. "Anything else?" "Nothing else. If you are not embarrassed by my these days and we will stop by the salon tonight, I see no reason not to go," she answered. Marion could see Archie freaking out, trying not to show it, but he was not very good at it. She understood perfectly well that at the cottage he hoped to finally get what she had refused him so far. Only this time he will be a bummer, Marion thought and smiled a little. They stopped by the salon after work. Marion had a new manicure, for which Archie had charged $2,500. She was going to pay for it herself, but he beat her to it. And the girl did not object. It was his business. No one forced him to do it after all. The way to the cottage of Archie's friend was not close, so at 6 in the morning, he picked up Marion. On the way they turned to the store, where Archie bought a bottle of martini, a mango, and a huge watermelon. It was uncomfortable to go empty-handed, even though his friend had said he didn't need to bring anything. He wanted to celebrate his promotion at work, so he stocked up himself. "Do you have water in the car?" Marion asked, taking pills out of her purse. "There's a whole bottle in the glove compartment," he answered. "What kind of pill?" When these days my stomach always hurts a lot. Here is a painkiller I want to take," she answered and took out some water. Archie still hoped that no matter what days they had, they would make it through the night, especially since he didn't care whether it was these days or not. It didn't matter at all. All week he had been thinking only about intimacy with Marion, anticipating how this weekend he would finally get to her body. Marion, on the other hand, was always thinking about Billy. The memories were haunting her, and she couldn't imagine how she could face him again and resist if he started to pursue her. No, she wouldn't give up right away. How much she'd suffered for him, how much she'd cried. Let him suffer too. Tell him she's getting married. Thinking of that, Marion looked at Archie. To him, the poor fellow was already exhausted. She even felt sorry for Archie for a moment. Only he's an asshole, and he's certainly no match for her. All she could think about was one thing. What kind of husband is he? He ain't. All he thinks about is what's in his pants and the expense account. There's nothing to compare him to Billy night and day. What's on your mind? Archie asked, interrupting her thoughts. Nothing much, answered Marion, looking out the window. The weather's nice today. Yes, lucky for us. Archie agreed, continuing to think about how to approach her at night. Once at his friend's cottage, Archie noticed the amazement with which all the men there were staring at his companion. After introducing Marion to his friends and her friends to him, he took her into the house to the room they had been given for the night. Marion said she wanted to lie down for a while. She was tired from the road, and her stomach was still a little sore. Can't you take another pill? Asked Archie. Can't take too many. I'll lie down for an hour and I'll be fine, she said. All right then. You get some rest. I'm going to go and help, and I'll be back in an hour. Archie left the room and went down to his friends. Is this really your girlfriend? Asked one of them as Archie approached. Yes. Why are you so surprised? He asked in a slightly arrogant tone. She looks like the cover of a magazine. A model? Where'd you find one of those? That's a lot of questions. What's the difference? Well, Archie, that's a surprise, says the other friend. Not a girl, a dream. You keep your voice down, or your friend will hear about dreams, laughs the third friend. Where are your girls? Archie asked and looked around. They're in the closed kitchen sorting out the food. They'll be here in a minute. Chatting with his friends, Archie lost track of time, and when he looked at his watch, he realized that it had been 2 hours, not an hour. I'm going to go see how Marion is doing, he said and went into the house. Marion was sound asleep with her pillow in her arms when Archie came into the room. There was still plenty of time before the feast, so he decided he shouldn't wake her up now and let her sleep. Closing the door, he went back to his friends. Tired, we left early. Let her sleep, he said. Marion opened her eyes and stretched. She looked at her watch and realized that she had slept for more than 4 hours. When she heard the sound of approaching footsteps, she got out of bed and began to comb her somewhat disheveled hair. You awake? Archie said with a smile as he entered the room. He immediately walked over to the girl and hugged her, imprinting a kiss on her neck. Marion pulled away from the man. Archie, well, I'm combing my hair, she said. Is everything ready there already? Because I'm hungry. I was just following you to call you to the table. Everything's ready, he said. Good, she said with a smile. They left the house and came to the table outside, where 3 of Archie's friends were already gathered with their girlfriends, who looked at Marion with scrutinizing glances. Hello, everyone, she said with a smile, sitting down at the table. Shashlik, fruits, vegetables, everything was delicious, but the company, Marion felt like a white crow. Archie's friends took turns squinting at her, as did their friends, except that they had different looks. Certainly the girls didn't like her company, but Archie, he sat there like a pompous turkey, showing that she was his girlfriend and feeling his superiority over his friends. And their conversations, what kind of shallow people, Marion thought, regretting that she had come here. There was nothing to talk about and no one to talk to. Archie noticed that Marion was bored and suggested a walk, and she agreed. After a few laps around the garden, they came back a couple of hours later and were told that the bat house was about to be heated. I'm not going, she said to Archie. Why not? He asked. We'll go separately, you and the girls. It's those days, she said. Ah, he blurted it out. He'd forgotten all about it. Well, I'll go quickly. Marion sat down on the garden swing and took her phone out of her purse. While everyone was in the bath, She opened an old folder that she had never been able to delete and began to look at the photos from when she and Billy had been together. There's no one like him anymore, she thought, and smiled sadly. Are we going to sleep in the same room? Marion asked surprised when she was about to go to bed and Archie showed up on the doorstep. Well, yes, he answered and began to take off his pants. Well, then you sleep on the couch. She nodded toward the small sofa against the wall. Marion, are you kidding? He asked unhappily. There's not enough room for two, she replied. The bed was indeed small, and two adults would not be comfortable sleeping on it. It's fine. He settled down next to the girl and immediately embraced her and started kissing her. But when he felt resistance on her part, he pulled away, making a disgruntled grimace. You smell like beer, I can't stand that odor. Wrinkling her beautiful nose, said Marion. And you forgot again that I have these days, she added and turned her back to Archie. Remembering all the mad words, he said them to himself. Grabbing a pillow, Archie abruptly got out of bed and went to sleep on the couch. Patience was at an end, and he could hardly resist taking it by force. Why did you come here with me then? He muttered. To spend time in nature, she answered. And I told you that I'm having these days and probably shouldn't go, but you didn't see it as a problem. And now you're freaking out because there's no sex. Archie, you and I are not going to work out with that attitude, she sighed. We'll make it work. I'm sorry I couldn't help myself again and sleep well, he said, startled by her words. I just love you so much. Good night, Archie, Marion said and yawned defiantly. Archie did not have a good night. His whole body ached and his mind was full of thoughts. He began to think that Marion was getting off the hook, and he was thinking hard about what to do to keep her from hitting him. He got up at 6 in the morning and drove to the nearest place that sold flowers. After buying a bouquet for $5,000, he went back and waited for Marion to wake up so he could give her the flowers and beg forgiveness for his behavior yesterday. Archie did not leave the room, waiting for Marion to wake up. As soon as she opened her eyes, he immediately walked over to her and handed her a bouquet of pink roses. Thank you, she replied, accepting the flowers. They're beautiful. I should put them somewhere. She looked around for a vase. I'm sorry I jumped on you again yesterday, Archie said and leaned in to kiss her, but Marion nuzzled her nose into the flowers, inhaling their scent. How they smell, she said with a smile. So you've forgiven me? Archie asked. I will if you don't behave like that again, and I'd like to go home after breakfast. Archie looked at the girl in surprise. I was thinking of going after lunch, he said. Well then, call me a cab. I want to leave early, she answered calmly. Are you in a hurry, or do you hate it here so much? I don't know what to do for another half a day. I want to go home. All right then, we'll go after breakfast then, he said a little disappointed. Is breakfast ready yet? I don't know. Archie shrugged his shoulders. I'll have a look and find the vase in the meantime. Archie left the room and Marion flopped down on the bed again, putting the bouquet beside her. It amused her to see Archie going out his way to get to her body, even confessing his love. Thinking about it, she grinned. Funny fool, there's no love here, not even close. Time to end this conversation, she thought, and got up from the bed. Didn't your princess like it here? Asked one of Archie's friends when he informed them that they were leaving after breakfast. She's not feeling well and it's a long way to go. She has to go to work tomorrow, answered Archie. You know, I was watching you two last night, and you're not really a couple, no offense, said the other friend. Archie pouted and looked at his friend. Why is that? He asked. Dear girl, answered the other one. That's right. One of the girls joined the conversation. Her sneakers alone cost probably half my salary, and her tracksuit's not cheap either. As long as I can remember, Archie, you've always had simple girls, and this one's a bimbo. And she's too pretty, you'll be jealous all the time. One of your friends added, We're fine. What about breakfast? Archie dismissed it. Ready. Call your beauty. If she eats scrambled eggs and sausage. Archie followed Marion, and soon everyone was sitting at the table, watching to see if Marion would eat such a simple breakfast. Archie, can I make an omelet without sausage? Asked the girl, rewarding everyone with her charming smile. Of course, right away. Archie jumped up from his seat and went to the refrigerator. What else are you having? Just an omelet and tea and cake. Marion looked at the cottage cheese pie, the aroma of which filled the entire small kitchen in the house. After breakfast, Archie and his companion were escorted to the car, and then the whole company began to discuss Marian, and everyone was inclined to the fact that she was not suitable for Archie. "And what do you plan to do the rest of the day?" asked Archie Marian as they drove home. "So on the house need to do something, and just lie around, a movie or something to watch," she answered. "Maybe we'll lie together?" Archie blurted out. "Again?" Marian almost laughed. "Just lie down together and watch a movie, and I'll help you around the house. I want to rest alone for a while. I need some privacy sometimes." "I see." Archie frowned. "I'll pick you up tomorrow then." "Okay, are you going to the cafe tomorrow night?" "What cafe?" Archie was surprised. "Well, it was Veronica's birthday yesterday. She invited me over on Friday. As far as I know, all of you will be there, and she invited me too." Archie shrugged. "Nobody said anything to me. She's probably upset with me, so she didn't invite me." Archie answered and grinned. "Veronica's been in love with me for a long time," he added. "Have you two been seeing each other?" asked Marian. "No." "You what?" "She's not my type at all. A relationship between Veronica and me is never possible." He said that like she was a lipper, noted Marian, because Archie said it all in such a tone, as if he Quasimodo matchmaker. "Marian, to be honest with you, you know her, it's understandable, you probably talked to her, but I'm judging purely from a man's point of view. Veronica is completely uninteresting, she doesn't look after herself, and she has a child. It would be very difficult for her to find a man. I guess some people like fat people. She should look for the right man in general." "Well, you're wrong about not keeping track. She's always got her hair, makeup, manicure, and neatly dressed. She's not fat, she's a little overweight, but she's pretty. I don't really understand about the man in question." "Do you think you are too good for Veronica?" asked Marian, realizing that that's exactly what this peacock thinks. "I'm interested in only one girl, and all the others I don't care about." Archie answered and smiled at Marian. "I only said that people like Veronica are not my type." "And if I had a child, would you still like me as much?" suddenly asked Marian. "Of course, you're a different matter." Archie was lying, although, as far as Marian was concerned, there was probably nothing to stop him. He hadn't considered such options for himself, but he'd give up a lot for a woman like that. Archie returned home in a bad mood. After some thought, he called Selena and invited her to this place for a couple hours. He just needed a release, and he got it. And next weekend, he would finally get to Marian as well. No more playing cat and mouse. No more of these days would get in the way. And it's time to set the record straight. He'd never spent as much time running after a girl as he had with her, and certainly never spent as much money on any girl as he had on this one. Monday, Archie came to pick up Marian as usual, and together they made their way to work. When they got into the office, the first thing Archie did was walk up to Veronica. "Happy past," he said, sitting down on the edge of her desk. "Thank you," she replied. "I hear everyone's going to the cafe today to celebrate your birthday, and you didn't invite me. Did you?" she asked and looked at Archie. "I thought I told everyone on Friday. Maybe you weren't in your office." "Maybe I was. So can I join you?" "Sure. I invited the whole team." "Veronica, did Mariana say anything about me?" "No, we're not close friends." "Right. That's a shame." He sighed heavily and went to his desk, where Harvey came over. "Hey," he said. "Hello, Harvey." Archie knew he was going to start asking him about the weekend. "Tell me about it." "Everything's fine," Archie replied with a smile. "It's finally happening, isn't it?" Harvey wondered. It's done," Archie lied. "Well, congratulations. So you two are really together?" Sure. I didn't believe it till the last minute. I told you she'd be mine," Archie said smugly. "Can you afford it from here?" "If you're smart about everything, you can cut costs. So I'm fine. You'll be at our wedding." "Is it that serious? When are you planning it?" "I don't know yet, but I don't think it's far off." Archie imagined his and Marian's wedding, and the thought came into his head of buying a ring and proposing to her. She'd know he was really serious, and if she says no, why would she? "I'm sure you will." On Saturday, he would invite her to a restaurant, buy flowers and propose, and then take her to his place and keep her up all night, proving how much he loved her. Before going to the cafe, Marion asked Archie to turn to the flower store. Let's buy her 5 roses, Archie suggested. He didn't want to spend money on Veronica, especially since he had already given her $1,000 for a gift. Just today, they were going to collect the money to give it to the birthday girl in the evening. I like this one, said Marion, looking at the bouquet for $3,000. Marion, if all employees give such gifts, you can go bankrupt, he replied. But how she will like it? I'll take it myself. Marion took the bouquet out of the vase and went to the cash register. Archie only sighed, but did not offer to pay for the bouquet himself. And what is the gift in the bag? He asked. In the morning, Marion went out of the house with it and then left it in Archie's car. A set of cosmetics with Dead Sea salts. Expensive, I suppose? Archie asked. I have a friend who drives. She and her husband have stores around the city, but it costs me a lot. In general, cosmetics are elite and worth their money. What do you get? We're splurging. An envelope of money will be handed over, he answered, thinking about the fact that Veronica will not help any elite cosmetics and why she needs it. And also he did not understand why Marion gives such an expensive gift to just an acquaintance. He used to give his ex-girlfriends a birthday gift for a maximum of $5,000, and this together with flowers. That's how Marion squanders money, and then she doesn't have enough for herself. Archie sighed heavily and took 5 of the cheapest roses, because it was inconvenient to go without flowers. The party was in full swing when Marion was invited to a slow dance by Archie's colleague, who was immediately rewarded with a sizzling look. During the whole dance, Archie kept his eyes on the dancing couple, nervously rubbing his napkin in his hands. He remembered that Marion didn't like to be jealous, but he couldn't help it. The other man was touching her with his hands, and it was driving him crazy. As soon as the next slow song played, he immediately dragged Marion to dance until someone else intercepted. After the cafe, we always go home? He asked. Of course, and get up early again tomorrow, she said. I hope to spend the weekend together. Not this weekend. I took Friday off. I want to go away for 3 days. I have a friend who lives there, and on Saturday it's her birthday. Marion replied, and Archie's face changed dramatically. 25 again. Always something. Don't you want to take me with you? He asked wistfully, thinking that the local men wouldn't let her get away with it. I didn't think about it. Marion answered, amazed at Archie's persistence. She was sure that he was going to get away from her, but he wouldn't give up. Would you go with me? Of course I would. I'd love to, he said. They'd be sure to have everything happen there, and none of these days would get in the way. All right then, let's do it, she answered and smiled, still amazed at Archie. That same evening, Archie started looking for tickets. Wanting and needing, that was putting it mildly. He looked up the price of business class tickets and his eyes almost popped out of his forehead. No, it was too much. But how would Marion feel if he bought economy? Should he not fly? No, we have to go. You can't let her go alone. Archie gutted the last of his stash and asked his parents to send him $150,000 in credit. With $115,000, he had tickets for to and back. He himself had never flown business class, but he was sure that Marion flew only that way. Having bought the tickets, he immediately called the girl to inform her about it. How much do I owe you? Asked Marion, barely restraining laughter when Archie proudly announced that he had purchased seats in business class. That's insulting, he replied. It's not a big deal. The main thing is that we'll be together, and you'll be comfortable. Archie, I insist. The pleasure is not cheap, she said. You don't have to give me anything back. If I'm in love, there's nothing I wouldn't do for the one I love, and I hope you'll finally warm up to me. Archie decided that he would buy a ring and propose to Marion there. Marion felt sorry for Archie at this point, considering she was about to explain to him that there would be no relationship between them. Even though he was a sucker, she didn't want to leave him pantsless. He wasn't going to slow down, so she didn't want to drag out the conversation about the impossibility of a relationship between them. She would tell him right after she got back. On Thursday, after Archie drove Marion home, he went straight to the jewelry store. He didn't know much about jewelry, but he knew that diamonds cost a lot of money. In the end, he spent almost all his money on the tickets and the ring. But the man decided that this was the last installment, which would certainly justify itself. There was money left for expenses and a bunch of flowers, not much, but enough, Archie thought. Now Marian would never leave him. The flight was not tedious, and at the airport they were waiting for a car, which was sent for them by Marian's friend. "Is your friend an oligarch?" asked Archie as they pulled away from the airport. "Her parents are," she answered. "They have several restaurants and cafes, as well as a huge pastry shop." There were no oligarchs in Archie's entourage, and he suddenly felt uncomfortable imagining what kind of company would gather at this party. "What do your parents do for a living?" he asked. They had never talked to Marian about her family. "My father is also in business, and my mother is a psychologist. We've been fighting for over a year." Marian did not want to tell him in detail about her family and their relationship. The girl's father was a very wealthy man, but it was not easy with him. Tired of his dictatorship, Marian flipped out and left home. She sold her grandmother's apartment, which she inherited, and bought the one in which she now lives. That's when she met Billy, who was also a very poor man and fully provided for her. But Marian then wanted to prove to the whole world that she herself is worth something, especially not for nothing she studied at the university. Being still in a relationship with Billy, she got a job, and now, working in the office next door to Archie, she held the position of head of the department with a salary of $250,000 and was quite able to provide for herself and pay the mortgage. Billy continued to send her money every month to an account that Marian hadn't used for a long time. Billy never counted money, continuing to help her, despite the fact that they broke up. In fact, he was very different from all those drooling Archie types. Billy valued Marian as a person, and he didn't just care about her expenses, and he wasn't obsessed with sex alone. "I see, and my common people," Archie replied, realizing why this girl was used to the beautiful life. "This is quite a house," said Archie, his eyes darting around as they drove into an area surrounded by a high brick fence. There were girls in swimsuits, music playing loudly, and vases of fruit and drinks on the small round tables by the pool. As soon as they got out of the car, a girl with long brown hair came up to them with a smile on her face. She immediately gave Marian a hug. "Hi, darling. It's so good to see you," she said, and then looked at Archie in surprise. "Alice." She introduced herself. "Archie, nice to meet you," Archie mumbled, trying not to stare at the girl's breasts, which were barely covered by her bikini top. Of course, Marian was the best, but her friend was very good too, and there were plenty of beauties here. "You can put your things on the second floor in the corner room, and come on in," said Alice. While they were walking to the house, Marian hugged a few more beauties and men. "Do you know them all?" asked Archie. "Of course I do," answered Marian. "Why are you so tense?" "I didn't expect it to be like this," answered Archie. "So it's like this?" asked Marian, knowing exactly what he meant. "Well, that everything is so cool and there will be so many people," answered Archie. "It's always like that here. Relax and rest," answered Marian. They went into the house, and Archie looked around and realized that he would never earn money for such a thing. Surely Marian's parents have no worse. That girl was used to luxury, and with his salary of 150 grand, he couldn't afford anything less. But on the other hand, she had invited him here, so he had every chance to expect reciprocity, especially since many women liked him, and money was not the only thing that made him happy. They went up to the second floor and entered one of the rooms. Marian immediately took out a swimsuit and went to change in the bathroom, having thoughtfully locked the door. Archie changed his clothes in the room so that when she came out of the bathroom, he was ready. "Are we going to sleep here?" he asked, eyeing Marian. She wore a netted summer tunic over her swimsuit, through which her half-naked body was clearly visible. "I don't know. Alice will tell me later," she answered. "Are we going to have fun?" "Let's go." Archie approached Marian and tried to hug and kiss her, but she immediately went to the door, preventing him from doing so. "They're waiting for us. Come quickly," she said and smiled. Archie followed her, not taking his eyes off her slender body. His body was beginning to react to the girl in a certain way, and he tried to distract himself from thoughts of her. Otherwise, he would be in a very awkward position, considering that he was wearing only swimming trunks. But Archie had brought a towel with him and decided to wrap himself in it to hide his violent reaction to Marian. It was certainly very cool and fun, but the privacy with Marian in such a crowd of people was out of the question. But Archie still relaxed, enjoying the expensive drinks and appetizers, as well as music and entertainment. The people were cheerful and positive, so he had a good time, hoping that at night his dreams would finally come true. But these expectations were not fulfilled either. Despite the fact that the house was large, it was not easy to accommodate such a large number of people. A separate room was out of the question, and he was sent to sleep on the first floor, where he shared a room with two men, and Marion with Alice and two other girls went to sleep on the second floor. "Where did you find such a frame?" asked Marion Alice as they settled in for the night. "At work, in the neighboring office works. Runs after me in the hope of putting me in bed," answered Marion. "He's pushing with all his might, but he's spending in full confidence that he can buy me. It is obvious that not from our circle, but with inflated self-esteem," said Alice. "It's fun to watch him. Don't you feel sorry for him?" "Sometimes I do. He's completely brain dead from wanting to fuck me. He's a small-minded fellow. He's already blabbed at work that we had a thing, but soon he'll be laughed at for his imagination. So send him in. He's not drooling for nothing. I'll talk to him when I get back. He asked to come here with me, and I decided to give him a chance to rest, so to speak, as a compensation for unjustified hopes and expenses. I wonder about men like that. Your eyes are there. You see who is in front of you and climb, or rather rut like tanks, thinking that he, a horse like that, can something to burn out with a girl like you. It's ridiculous. You have to choose for yourself and not try to do things that mere mortals can't do." "Well, he doesn't see himself that way. Macho. Not everyone can give an objective assessment of himself. My friend works in the same office with him. She's in love with him. Very nice woman, a little overweight and with a child, but not scary at all. And a good person. You should hear how he talked about her. He thinks he's way above her. How is he superior? In my opinion, he is not worthy of her," Marion said before going to bed. "Oh, girls, there are plenty of stooges like that," said their mutual acquaintance Anna. "They see a pretty girl and immediately flow from all places. Stop it, Marion, or he'll turn out to be a psycho. He'll do something that'll make you look bad. Like at Maddie's, remember, a couple of years ago, one of these same suckers slit his wrists. The girls all crinkled up. You, God forbid. That's really sick," answered Marion. "I'll talk to him as soon as we get back." "And with Billy never saw again?" suddenly asked Alice, and Marion immediately changed in the face. "No. Alexander said that he divorced and is moving away, but I don't want to see him," she answered. "That's great news. Why don't you make up? You were such a great couple," Alice asked. "We were. He left me then, even though he promised to divorce me. It's over between us." "Oh, Marianne, where could you find a better one? And it was you who sent him away. Your last one was jealous. This one was nothing. And Billy is a real man. I'll tell you a secret. A lot of people envied you, even me." Alice sighed dreamily. "Only he's married. I'm surprised that his leech finally got off and gave her a divorce. Probably still grabbed half of everything that does not belong to her. That's for sure. Who wants to leave empty-handed? The important thing is that he's free now. Well, since you don't need him anymore, I guess I'll take him." Alice looked slyly at her friend and laughed when she threw a pillow at her. "I'll do it for you," Marion replied and threw a second pillow at her friend. "That was to prove it," Alice said, throwing the pillows back at Marion. The next day was even more intense than the first. In the first half of the day, the whole company went to the sea, where there were rides on a banana, a water tube, a scooter, a game of beach volleyball. A separate piece of beach was set aside for them, and Archie had no idea how much such a birthday party could cost. They spent about 5 hours there, and then moved back to Alice's house. Toward evening, tables were set up outside, bursting with delicacies. Then live music and foam disco began right by the pool. Archie decided not to deny himself anything, because when else would he be able to be at such an event? "And your Gofford is getting into the taste," laughing said Alice, watching Archie drinking the 2015 San Leonardo with two of Alice's friends. "And it looks like he's found some new bodies that he can't handle either." "I bet he is. He's never been to a party like this before," Marion replied. The next morning after breakfast, it was time to leave this paradise, which Archie did not want to leave. "Did you like it?" asked Marion, noticing how longingly he looked at Alice's house as they drove off. I don't know. It was great. I've never had such a vacation, he said. I only wish I could have been alone with you. Marion smiled and looked out the window without answering. When they returned, Archie took the car from the parking lot, and on the way home Marion fell asleep. She woke up when Archie's car stopped. Where are we? She asked, looking out the window and realizing that he hadn't brought her home. My place, he said and pulled the ring out of his pocket. Thought about proposing to you, but there was no way. Marry me. Marion clapped her eyes in amazement. Archie, are you serious? She asked. Of course I am, he replied. Archie, I'm sorry, but no. We're just not right for each other. I wanted to talk to you about the fact that nothing will happen between us and we won't see each other again. Archie went pale. I don't get it. You gave me hope and now you're telling me we're not going to see each other. Well, we've been talking, getting to know each other, so I've come to that conclusion. And I don't love you, she said. Huh, Archie grinned nervously. That's a good way to throw me. Everything inside him began to boil with anger. You've been ditching me for so long and now you're in the bushes. That long? You sound like months. Let's just go our separate ways. Do you have any idea how much money I blew on you? He yelled. Ooh, that's the reason I have to spread my legs for you. Do I look like a hooker to you? You're worse. He put the ring in his pocket and looked at Marion hatefully. Why did you call me? And this ring costs almost my entire salary, not to mention other expenses. Well, you asked for it, and I did not ask you for the ring, as well as the rest. Now you've shown me what you are, which I've already seen. I don't want such a man, she answered rudely. What kind of man do you want? Who will pour millions into you and not fuck you? He almost shouted. Nobody asked you to pour anything into me. By the way, I'll pay you back for the ticket. And for the rest, then give it to me, he roared. Marion laughed. That's all love is, she said. You're going to laugh that I'll fuck you right in the car, he said, and Marion immediately pulled the door handle to get out, but the doors were locked. All you wanted was one thing, all the thoughts in your pants. Just because you tried to buy me doesn't mean I'm for sale. Open the door, she said, giving him a searing look. First, let's go to my place and do what we should have done a long time ago, he said. I'm not going anywhere and I don't owe you anything. Archie unlocked the doors and got out of the car first. Marion also hurriedly left the car, and Archie took her by the arm and dragged her to his driveway. Let go, horny, she said and kicked him in the knee. Bitch, he wheezed, immediately letting her go and lifting his leg to stroke his knee. Get my suitcase and I'll call a cab. Archie went back to the car and opened the trunk, threw Marion's suitcase out of it, and then wandered to his driveway, throwing a few insults at the girl. Marion called a cab, and Archie pulled out a bottle of vodka as soon as he entered the apartment. He was close to hysterical and was shaking with anger. After a few shots of vodka, he sat down at his computer and started looking for a prostitute who looked like Marion and was cheaper than Selena. An hour or so later, he was already making out with Cindy. She was far from Marion, but she got $6,000 for 3 hours. The girl had more than earned her money, but Archie felt better only physically, and his soul was incredibly nasty. He still wanted Marion, no matter what. Marion got out of the cab, and Billy came out of the black Range Rover parked outside her driveway, holding a huge basket of flowers. Marion froze in place, looking at the man, and he hurried toward her. Hi, he said with a smile, handing her the flowers. I missed you so much. Marion definitely turned away. Hi, why did you come? She asked, trying to cope with the excitement that overwhelmed her at this moment. To finally marry the woman I love, he answered. It was beyond her strength to resist, and Marion tearfully threw herself on his neck, and Billy immediately hugged her tightly, kissing her neck. Monday. Archie came to work in a foul mood. He'd shouted Harvey down as soon as he'd opened his mouth to ask how the weekend had gone. He hadn't seen Marion since morning or lunchtime. She must have taken some more time off, he thought, and picked up his phone. He twirled it around in his hands, wondering what to write to her, but he couldn't find the words. Putting the phone aside, Archie tried to concentrate on his work, but he kept seeing her in her bikini and the mesh tunic she'd been wearing the day they'd arrived. Tuesday. Archie had just parked outside the business center when he saw Marion step out of the black Range Rover that had just pulled up. But what caught his attention more was the man who opened the car door for her and gave her his hand. He looked to be a little over 30 years old and very presentable. It was clear that he was a rich man. Archie could not hide the way Marion looked at this macho man. She had never looked at him like that before. The man hugged her with one hand and lightly kissed her on the lips, and then she went to the entrance to the business center. The girl was glowing and seemed to light up everything around her with her beauty and charming smile. Archie immediately followed her and barely managed to jump into the elevator, where to his joy there was no one but Marion. "Who is it?" Archie asked, giving her a stern look. "Someone who's going to beat your face in if you bother me," she answered dryly. "You found a richer fool? Nothing. He'll find out what a dynamo you are. He'll run away at once," he said mockingly. "Archie, calm down. Be a man and accept my rejection with dignity. I don't have a shred of respect for you." "When will you get the money back?" he asked. "I changed my mind. After all the time I wasted on you, and you turned out to be worse than I thought." The elevator doors opened. "Get out," said Marion to Archie, who was blocking her way out of the elevator. "Are you serious with him?" Archie was mad with jealousy and had no idea what to do, no idea what he was saying. Marion stepped out of the elevator and stopped, looking at Archie pityingly. "More than that, he's a real man. I love him, and we're getting married soon. And of course, I did not dynamite him. Andriush, and you find someone the same level with you. And don't cry. God with you, I'll pay you back for the ticket and underwear." Without waiting for an answer, Marion went to her office, and Archie looked after her for a while. His eyes suddenly twitched nervously and his hands trembled. This is it, he thought. There was nothing more he could do, and this woman would never be with him. His dreams of her remained dreams. 3 months later, Marion married Volodya and quit her job, working there only 2 weeks after she returned. Now she helps her husband with the business, earning 4 times as much as Archie, and she paid him back the money for her ticket and underwear. Archie still gave the ring back to the store, although it took a lot of nerve, because jewelry cannot be returned. He has already found a new job and in a couple of days will leave this business center, because after his unsuccessful affair with Marion, there were some bad rumors about him. Veronica was still fond of Archie, despite the fact that Marion said some unpleasant things about him. However, Veronica did not refuse to socialize with other men, and soon she would meet one of the employees of Billy's firm. Marion has set a goal to find Veronica a fiancé, and their senior manager liked the woman. In fact, she liked him from the photo. Veronica realized that Archie would never look in her direction, but life must be arranged. At the new place of work, Archie immediately paid attention to Elizabeth. Slender, long-legged brown girl, by type reminiscent of Marion, stood out against the background of the other female employees of the office. The girl agreed to have dinner with him in a cafe, which he chose himself. And this time he would be lucky, he thought, anticipating the upcoming stormy night in the arms of the beauty. Julia walked out of the supermarket door and squinted against the bright sun. It was the first day of summer, and it was already so hot outside, and such beauty all around. The neatly trimmed bushes along the path had already turned green. Julia hummed in amazement. Before she knew it, summer was coming. There was no time. She hardly ever went outdoors, except when she had to do some shopping for the house, like now, for example. Julia sighed and hurried to the bus stop. No time to admire the foliage and bask in the sun. She had to hurry. She had already left Catherine alone for quite some time. The handles of the huge bags were digging painfully into her hands, but the woman tried to ignore it, remembering whether she had made all the necessary purchases. "No, come on." Julia froze in place. The essentials she'd forgotten as always. She hadn't bought adult diapers. Need to go back to the supermarket, but how long would that take? To deposit the bags in the luggage room, run down the huge hall to the household chemicals department, and wait in the long line at the checkout again. No. Julia shook her head. Besides, there's a bus pulling up to the stop. The woman quickened her step and began to climb the steps to the bus, holding the bags in front of her. She was helped by a man standing on the bus who rushed to the door. He literally snatched her burden from Julia's hands. "Young lady, why do you carry such heavy things?" There must be a man for that, he winked. They call you a girl. Julia grinned to herself. This at my 42. Well, it's nice. She thanked her traveling companion for his help and took her bags from him, placing them in front of her. The man looked at Julia appraisingly. Yes, he'd probably overdone it with the girl, though from the outside it wasn't hard to call her that. Small, fragile as a bird, with a mop of thick hair carelessly gathered into a ponytail, but her face showed her age. Tired, with 2 deep wrinkles between her eyebrows. Apparently, life is not sugar. That's what the man thought of the woman he'd helped. But Julia wasn't interested in looking at him. She had another problem to worry about. The woman had no better idea than to call her husband. Mickey, I'm sorry to interrupt your work again. I know, you don't have time to take me shopping. I already did. I'm on the bus home right now. I just forgot to buy diapers for your mom. And there's only a couple left at home. I was wondering if you could stop by the store after work. Yeah, Mickey, I'm absent-minded. I know what you said about making lists. I've been trying to keep things in my head. You can't do that. Okay, I got it. I'm gonna try Ariana on the phone. The woman pressed the disconnect button and immediately called her daughter. The girl answered her mother in a whisper. She was at a lecture. Ariana was in her final year at the institute. What, Mom? What did you forget to buy? Faintly hissed into the phone the girl. Okay, I'll come back. I'll buy it, of course, I said. As soon the sick woman poked a fork in Julia's direction. Don't come near me. It's no good, sighed Julia. Apparently, we can't do without an injection again. Catherine's going through another aggressive phase. Julia spent half an hour putting her mother-in-law's guard down, talking to her and proving that she had not come with murderous intent. Only then did she manage to get close enough to Catherine to give her an injection. After the injection, the mother-in-law went limp and allowed her daughter-in-law to take her to the shower and wash herself. There was nothing to breathe in the house from the pungent odor, and of course, Julia wanted to wash everything quickly. But after the shower, her mother-in-law's appetite woke up. Julia fed her. She didn't notice how Ariana came back from school with 2 big packs of diapers. Oh, Mom, that's the smell. Grandma's at it again, isn't she? When does she have time for this? While I was at the store, Julia answered. It's okay, Mom, we'll clean it up. I'll do it myself. You go eat and rest. You must be tired at your institute. I'm not tired. Besides, I can't eat with the smell in here anyway. I'll get my gloves and start scrubbing. How are you feeling, by the way? Nothing fine, Julia lied, not wanting to worry her daughter or tell her that she'd taken 3 painkillers just today. No matter how hard Julia and her daughter tried to get rid of the odor in the house before her husband arrived, they couldn't. Mickey wrinkled his nose, barely entering the house. What's that smell again? Julia, why are you sitting at home and can't take care of your mom? I'm tired as a dog after work. I wanted to go home and rest, but I can't get in the house. It'll blow over soon enough. Ariana and I have already washed everything. Catherine did it while I went shopping. I told you this morning that the house was a mess. Mickey frowned. It didn't seem like a big deal, but the man was uncomfortable. You know what? I'm gonna go to the cafe for dinner. It's impossible to be here. It's been a bad day since this morning. Not only had Julia not been able to sleep at all during the night because of her headaches, but her mother-in-law had woken up in an aggressive state and was now happily banging dishes against the kitchen, smiling a creepy smile. Julia was grateful at least that her husband and daughter had managed to leave by this time. Mickey was already perpetually unhappy when Julia didn't have time to keep track of Catherine and had already hinted on more than one occasion that there were special places for such patients. Julia was indignant. Mickey, how can you do this? It's your mom. We're not taking her anywhere. By lunchtime, Catherine had calmed down. She sat in her room quietly watching television. Julia exhaled and decided to do some bookkeeping. But there was no way to do that. As soon as the woman sat down at her desk and piled the papers in the room, quietly entered the mother-in-law. Julia, I need to talk to you. Mom, maybe a little later. What if later isn't possible? No, Julia? Let's do it now, while I'm still thinking. Julia looked carefully at her mother-in-law. Mickey was wrong to say she didn't recognize them at all. Sometimes Catherine had moments of enlightenment. Like this. Her speech was clear and her eyes focused. Okay, Mom, Julia said, pushing the papers aside. What did you want to talk to me about? The older woman grabbed a chair by the back and pulled it closer to her daughter-in-law. She sat down on it, sighed, and lowered her eyes, as if she didn't know where to begin. Julia, you won't be offended if I tell you that I made a will for this house. I willed it to Ariana. I'm not stupid and I know what's happening to me. I know what dementia is. When I started to have the first symptoms, I went to a notary. I was completely sane then. The will was made according to the law. Why should I resent you, Mom? It's your house and you can do as you please. Besides, Ariana is my daughter. How can I object? What I don't understand is why you did it. Because I love you and my granddaughter. I love my son too, of course, but Mickey's a very peculiar man. Don't you think I realized that if it wasn't for you, he'd have put me in an almshouse a long time ago? I could hear him complaining. If I hadn't made a will, he'd have inherited this house alone when I died. Ariana, a man knocked on the door. Are you coming out soon? I'm done. The door opened abruptly and the girl slipped out of the bathroom in a hurry. Ariana, wait, her father stopped her. Couldn't you stay home tonight? We can't leave Grandma alone for that long. Dad, there's no way I can. I have an exam today. And if I could, I'd go to Mom's hospital. I'm really worried. She's supposed to have an MRI today. I'll go to her right after school. What about Grandma? Mickey asked in confusion. Who are we going to leave her with? Dad, there's a situation where you need to get involved. Take a day off work. Ariana mumbled and ran off to her room to get dressed. A stunned Mickey stared after his daughter. What do you mean, he has to take a day off work? And if Mom got dirty again or broke something, who would clean it up? Him? The man wasn't ready for that. However, Ariana ran out of the house, ignoring her father, who was frozen in the hallway. Ariana didn't care about her father right now. She hadn't even prepared for the exam properly, because all her thoughts were about her mother, who she had taken by ambulance to the hospital yesterday. Mom looked bad, really bad. It was only now that Ariana noticed how thin her already frail mother had gotten lately, and under her eyes the woman had dark circles. After she passed the exam, she ran out of the institute and called a cab. She couldn't wait to go to the hospital. When she arrived there, she was allowed to go up to the room, as the patient was not recommended to get up yet. Julia was lying on the bed with a sheet up to her chin, and her face seemed to be the same color as that white sheet. Ariana's heart clenched at the sickly look on her mother's face. How had she never noticed it before? Mom had gotten so down lately. She had been pulling everything on her shoulders, her grandmother and the house, and trying to work. Ariana kissed her mom on the cheek and asked, "So, did you have your MRI? What did it show?" Julia looked away, staring at the wall. It was nothing. Some kind of tumor in her head. They said it's nothing. We'll take care of it. However, her mother's calm words contradicted her appearance. Julia was biting her lower lip and tears were flowing from her eyes. "Mom, what kind of tumor is it? What's the treatment? Are you not telling me something? We don't know anything yet. They say they need additional examinations and tests. I think everything will be fine. By the way, how's our grandmother? Who's she with?" Julia tried to change the subject. "I do not know. When I went to the institute, Dad was at home. I asked him to take time off and stay with my grandmother. I hope he didn't leave Catherine alone," Julia sighed. "There's no telling how long I'll have to stay here, what she'll be like without me." The woman continued to talk to her daughter on distracted topics, and her seemingly carefree voice made Ariana more and more anxious. Her mother was obviously hiding something, and she decided to find out for herself. She left the room and went to the post and asked the nurse where she could find her mother's doctor. When the nurse pointed her to the resident's room, she knocked and entered it. The doctor was a smiling man in his 40s. However, the smile slid off his face when he found out whose daughter Ariana was. "So you're Julia's daughter? Unfortunately, I have some bad news for you. There's a tumor in your mother's head. I can't confirm anything yet. We need to run more tests, but judging by the enlarged lymph nodes, the tumor is malignant. And it's inoperable at this point. You see, it's a waste of time. Why didn't your mom go in sooner? Then we could have cut out the tumor." If the tumor is confirmed malignant, we'll have to transfer your mom to oncology, and there she'll probably get chemotherapy. Ariana froze with her mouth hanging open in horror. She didn't even know what to ask. And this chemotherapy, will it help? Will mom get better? Unfortunately, there was no hope of recovery, only to maintain the quality of the rest of her life. Ariana walked out of the residence room pale and dazed. As she took a few steps toward her mother's room, she realized she couldn't see her now because she would start sobbing. She was already getting hysterical. The girl, turning abruptly, jumped out of the ward. At home, Ariana was waiting impatiently for her father, who was disheveled and angry. "Ariana, where are you going? Your grandmother made a mess. I can't clean it up." "Where have you been?" The crying girl snapped at him. "I asked you to leave work today. Did you leave Grandma alone?" "Of course I did. I can't sit with her like a tethered man." The man squinted his eyes and looked closely at his daughter's face. "Ariana, what's wrong with you? Have you been crying? Did you pass your exam?" "I was in the hospital at my mom's. That's the first thing you should have asked me. The doctor said there's a tumor in her head and it's inoperable. Time is running out, but we're gonna fight for our mom, right, Dad? We're gonna save her." "What do you mean inoperable?" The man blinked his eyes. "How are we going to fight if the doctors won't operate? We can take her somewhere abroad. Maybe they'll do it there. There are cases when they saved those who were abandoned here." Mickey was silent, his head down and looking at the tips of his socks. The man didn't know what to say of his daughter. "Daddy, what are you standing there for? Why haven't you gone to the hospital to see Mommy? Go, she's waiting for you. You have to support her. I'll clean it up myself." Yes, of course," Mickey fussed. He walked towards his bedroom, then stopped. "Ariana, does Mom know about her diagnosis yet? How do I talk to her?" "Talk to her about what?" "Dad, you're an adult, someone close to her. Support her. She didn't want to talk to me. Maybe she'll talk to you. You should be there for her at a time like this." Mickey was hesitating. "If your mom's so bad now, who's going to take care of Grandma? What about her? I guess we'll have to put her in a nursing home." "No nursing homes." Ariana said no. "We can handle everything. There's two of us. We'll cure Mom and we won't have to put Grandma in a nursing home." "Daddy, be patient. Take a vacation at work. I'd only got a couple weeks of school left. Then I'll take over Grandma. Maybe I'll work from home like Mom. Anyway, we'll figure something out. Right now, the most important thing is my mom's treatment. Why don't you just go and see her?" "I'm going to get ready." Mickey nodded and went back to the bedroom. Julia was very happy to see her husband. She held out her hands to him and he took them in his. The man felt awkward, not knowing what to say in such a situation. "Mickey, I'm not doing well at all. I didn't want to tell my daughter, but I have an inoperable tumor. It's growing." "Ariana already knows," Mickey said. "She went to see your GP." "She knows, huh? Well, she'd have to tell me sooner or later. How's she doing?" "She's pretty upset." "Mickey, I'm so scared. I don't want to. I'm not ready to leave you. Maybe we can find some doctors to do the surgery." Mickey remembered what his daughter said. "I don't know yet, but if there's a chance, I'll fight." Julia smiled. Snow was falling from the sky in large flakes, slowly swirling in the air. Ariana placed her palms under it as she strolled leisurely down the street. Festively decorated shop windows sparkled and shimmered with colorful garlands. Slowly walking girl was passed by passersby, hurrying to make the last purchases for the new year. It was the 31st of December, and of course, everyone was in a hurry to set the festive table to celebrate the holiday. Ariana alone was in no hurry. This holiday for her did not promise to be cheerful. Though her mom had tried so hard to create a mood in the house, she even made her father buy a Christmas tree. She herself dressed it up, overcoming the pain and pretending that everything was fine. And Ariana felt like crying from all the New Year's preparations. What if this New Year's Eve was the last one she would spend with her mom? How abruptly everything had changed in the blink of an eye. And the former carefree life of Ariana turned into a series of suffering and hardship. 6 months ago, the girl had already lost her grandmother. That day, Ariana was in the hospital with her mother, and with her grandmother was supposed to sit father. But he, as usual, left the elderly woman alone, and she, not realizing what she was doing, opened the gas in the kitchen. Ariana got home before Mickey did, opened the front door, and a stifling odor wafted into her face. "Grandma," she screamed, running into the house. The girl found Catherine in the kitchen, lying next to the stove, where only the strength had come from, but Ariana, trying not to breathe, dragged her grandmother out of the house herself. There she cried, trying to bring her to her senses. It was too late. Ariana was angry at her father for leaving her grandmother alone. The man, on the other hand, didn't seem to feel any guilt at all. However, he was furious when he learned that his mother had left a will and the house now belonged to her daughter. "The mother was out of her mind," Mickey shouted. "Ariana, you realize Grandma wasn't in her right mind when she made it. Refuse to join and I'll inherit the house, as it should be. This house was built by my father and I put so much into it. You're my daughter. I'm not gonna kick you out." But it was Julia who stood up for her daughter. "She won't give up anything," the woman said firmly. "I knew about the will. Catherine told me, and when she drew it up, dementia had not yet overcome her. She did it in her right mind." To tell the truth, Ariane didn't care. The girl was grieving for her grandmother, worried about her mom, and didn't care about the house. "I could say no," she shrugged. "No, you will not refuse," the mother insisted. It was Catherine's will. And Ariana heeded Julia's exhortation. So the house where the family lived was now the girls'. As she approached the house, Ariana added a step. "After all, Mom is waiting." The girl tried to give herself a happy look as she entered the house. "Mom, here I am. I bought everything you asked for. Now you and I are going to set the table." Julia was sitting on the bed in the bedroom, and when she heard her daughter's voice, she quickly hid the syringe she was using to give herself an extra shot of painkiller. Ariana can't know how bad she feels, but somehow she had to stay on her feet. Today was a holiday. She wanted to celebrate with her family like she used to, as if the disease didn't exist. "Isn't Daddy here yet?" Ariana came into the room. "No, but I called him. He'll be here soon. And you go ahead. Tie a shawl on my head beautifully, as you know how." Ariana went to the bed and began to tie a brightly colored handkerchief on her mother's bald head from chemotherapy. The girl smiled, hiding her tears behind her smile. "Mom is as thin as a bird. Her arms are like sticks. There are no eyebrows or eyelashes on her face, but Mom is brave, so Ariana will smile too." Then the two of them would set the holiday table to their favorite Soviet movie blaring from the TV. Mickey was still gone. The man called and said he'd be a little late. Ariana was angry with her father. She realized he was doing it on purpose. Since her mother's illness, he had been coming home less and less often. He even stopped sleeping in the same bed with her and moved to another room. The man justified this by saying that he couldn't get enough sleep next to his wife, who was always tossing and turning and moaning. But Ariana could see that it was just hard for her father to be around her mother. He can't look her in the eye, doesn't know what to talk to her about, can't cheer her up, can't support her. Just like in the case of Grandma, it's as if the father has withdrawn himself. He seemed to be there, but he wasn't. Ariana tried to get through to her father, but got nowhere. "Well, I can't, Mickey said. "We all know where this is going. All the doctors have refused to operate on your mother. What am I supposed to tell her? Everything's going to be all right, but she knows it's not going to be all right. Dad, but we have to be there for her. We have to support her. I'm here for her, and don't ask more of me than I can do. Your mom doesn't ask anything of me." "Of course she doesn't. That's what Mom is," Ariana muttered, realizing that another conversation with her father was going nowhere. Mickey didn't get home until 10 o'clock at night and sat at the table as if he were doing his duty. Julia tried to make jokes and lighten the mood as best she could, but her husband didn't support her in the least. Ariana kept her eyes on her mother. The girl noticed her every twitch and realized that it was getting harder and harder for her mother to sit at this table and talk. "Mom, can't you lie down?" The girl couldn't stand it. "Are you in a lot of pain?" "No, not at all, my daughter. Until 12. I will sit up to 12. I'm fine. Should I give you a painkiller?" "Give me that. I wouldn't mind a shot." Julia smiled strangely, hiding from her daughter that she'd already had a shot recently. Mickey sat staring hard at the television, pretending not to hear his wife and daughter talking. It was 12 o'clock. The president had given his speech and the bottle of champagne had been drunk. Julia rose heavily from the table. Now I think I'm going to lie down. We'll clean up with you tomorrow. Okay, Ariana? Sure, go to bed. I'll clean it up myself. Don't worry about it. Come on, I'll take you to the bedroom. Julia lay down in bed and smiled at her daughter and covered her tired eyes. Ariana covered her mother with a blanket and quietly went out, closing the door behind her. Her father was standing by the party table in his street clothes, putting something in a cellophane bag. Dad, where are you going? The girl was surprised. I'm going to a friend's house. It's New Year's Eve and I'm not going to go to bed so early. How could you? And if Mom gets up, what will I tell her? Ariana, I spent time with her until 12. What else? I've been invited since tonight and I didn't go. Your mom's sick, but I'm healthy. I don't have to lay my life on the altar of her illness. Neither do you, by the way. Don't you have anywhere else to spend the party? Yes, my friends invited me too, but you and I shouldn't do that. Mom is our family and we have to be with her. You're doing a very bad thing. Whatever you want, I'm going, the man said defiantly. Ariana's shadow wandered around the house, stroking her mom's things. A week had passed since Julia's funeral, and her daughter couldn't touch anything, couldn't move anything. Even Dash's robe still hung on the back of the chair next to the bed. Father, as it often happened, was not at home. He hadn't been there the night Mom was gone either. It was Ariana who sat with her and held her hand until her last breath. Julia already realized that she wouldn't make it through the morning and asked her daughter to sit by her side. Are you in pain, Mom? Ariana asked. No, the pain has receded and I almost feel good. But I feel like it's time for me to leave. Don't feel bad, daughter. I even want you to. I've been in so much pain, it's a relief. In that closet over there, in my things, you'll find money. Don't be surprised, it's not much. Some of it was given to me by your grandmother. The rest I saved myself by taking part-time jobs. Your father doesn't know anything about the money, and I don't want him to. It was in the bank until the last minute, but I cashed it out recently. Take it and don't tell Mickey about it. It's for the wedding or wherever you want to do with it. What wedding? The girl swallowed a lump in her throat. What are you, Mom? I don't even have a boyfriend. You will, her mother smiled. Of course you will. You're so beautiful and kind. I'm happy to have you. It's just a pity that I won't be able to attend your wedding. I won't have grandchildren. Now Ariana suddenly remembered that last conversation. The money her mother had talked about. At first the words had slipped her mind. When she remembered, she decided to see what the money was. Ariana found a neat stack of large bills tied with a rubber band and wrapped in a cellophane bag at once. The girl opened her eyes wide in surprise. There's a lot here. A lot. How did Mom manage to accumulate so much? The girl counted it out. A little over $1 million. Wow, this was something Ariana hadn't expected. At Mommy, she denied herself everything. And yet you could easily vacation abroad. You dreamed of it, but you never went, thought Ariana and cried once again. That's all she had done since her mother's funeral was wander around the house and cry. What should I do now with this money? Should I tell my father? No. Immediately, Ariana shook her head negatively. I won't tell him anything, just like Mom wanted me to. The girl understood why her mother had reasoned that way. Mickey had turned out to be quite a different man in both sickness and joy. The man had self-effacingly withdrawn from trouble when he learned of his wife's illness. He lived parametrically on his own, trying not to touch anything that disturbed his peace of mind. At the moment when her mother was gone, Ariana sat by her bed for a long time, unable to get up, only looking at her favorite face with a sharpened nose. In the morning, she called her father, who hadn't been home that night. Daddy, Mommy's gone. When? Mickey breathed into the phone. And Ariana felt so uncomfortable because in that short word she heard joy, the joy of deliverance. Daddy, you don't exult so clearly, the girl shouted then. I can hear everything in your voice. Daughter, what are you doing? Mickey was confused. Perhaps for the first time he called Ariana that. I'm not happy, but you must realize that it's a relief for your mother. She's been in so much pain, and now it's over. What do you think? She didn't want this. Maybe she did, but that's not for you to say. Where are you now? Get over here right away. I don't know what to do. I'll be right there, Mickey said curtly and hung up. The girl stared at the phone with indignation as it beeped, and anger at her father bubbled up inside her. That anger hadn't passed during the funeral, and it hadn't passed now. Ariana spoke to Mickey through gritted teeth, which wasn't something she had to do very often. Although, it had to be said, after her mother's death, her father had come home more often. Ariana pulled herself together, wiped away her tears, and looked around. The money should be stashed somewhere where her father wouldn't accidentally stumble upon it. Let it lie there. The next morning, Ariana woke up early, despite the fact that she had been in bed for a long time, unable to fall asleep. She had an important job interview scheduled for today. After graduating from the institute, she never went to work because she wanted to be near her sick mom. After the funeral, Ariana realized that the longer she stayed at home, the more depressed she became. It was necessary to pull herself together and look for a job. The girl stumbled upon a vacancy as a clerk to a judge. It suited her. She graduated from law school, and now she was in a hurry to get an interview. This interview went well, and a couple days later, Ariana got a call. Having gone to work, the girl became a little distracted. In the court she was interested in working. A young guy, Barry, who worked there as a driver, immediately drew attention to the eternally sad Ariana and began to give her all sorts of signs of attention. At first, the girl waved off his advances. She was not up to the relationship. But Barry turned out to be quite persistent. In addition, he was a very attractive young man, and Ariana began to thaw. The first time, she let Barry drag her to a cafe on her lunch break, then take her home in his work car. And after a couple months, the young men started seeing each other every day in the evenings. Barry was 25. He lived with his mom in a small one-bedroom apartment. When he saw Ariana's house, he whistled. "What a place! Do you live here all by yourself?" "No, I don't live here alone. I live with my dad, but he's away most of the time." "But still, it's a big house. There's room for 2 families," Perry marveled. "Yeah, we used to have a family too. We had a grandmother, a mother," Ariana said sadly. "Now it's just my dad, but we don't talk to him very well. I take it you're angry at him for not paying enough attention to your mom when she was sick." "Little attention is not the right word. Dad had his own life. He didn't want to know about her illness. He didn't want to help. He wasn't even home." "Look, Ariana, you can understand him too. Maybe your father was going through something inside and didn't know what to do about it. Sometimes men act like that out of impotence. You said it yourself. All the doctors refused to operate on your mom. What could her husband do about it?" "Stay close," Ariana said quietly. "Just be there." Barry walked Ariana home. They went to a movie. Afterwards, they tried to go for a walk, but it was chilly outside. As they approached the gate, Barry blew on his frozen hands to family. "I'm so hungry I can't sleep," he joked. "Ariana, seriously, why don't you invite me in for tea?" The girl took a quick glance at the glowing windows of the house. "No, some other time. Dad's home." "Well, that's the thing. Where are you going to introduce me to your father?" "I already introduced you to your mom, and I'm kind of freaking out about this situation. You're not taking our relationship seriously." "Yes, Barry, I am." Ariana put her hand on Barry's elbow in a conciliatory manner. "But let's do it a little later. I'm not ready yet. My father and I have only recently begun to talk normally." "Okay," agreed the boy. "Just don't drag this out too long. Why are we hiding like teenagers? My mom really liked you. I hope your father won't mind me." The young people stood near the gate for a while longer. Then a frozen Ariana ran into the house. She closed the door behind her, and as she began to take off her shoes, she froze. For a moment, she thought she heard a woman's voice in the back of the house. The girl listened. No, it seems quiet. It must have seemed like it. The first thing Ariana did was run into the bathroom and bask there under the hot shower. When she came out, she got a big surprise. "Ariana, I'd like you to meet Emma. She's going to live here with me," the father said, waiting for his daughter in the hallway, next to a young girl about 5 years older than Ariana. It was obvious that they were both a little worried. Ariana was confused. What did she mean she was going to live here? Daddy, who's that? The girl started to realize something. So I don't get it. You cheated on Mom with this one. Mom's gone and I'm a human being. You don't think I can start a new relationship? A new relationship? Mom's only been gone 3 months. You wouldn't have made it. So you've been with her for a long time. Mom suspected that you don't live at home for a reason. But I thought you weren't that sneaky. You're a traitor. A despicable traitor. Ariana, watch your language. Mickey frowned. I am your father after all. That's exactly what a father is. A grown man. How old is that? What's her name? I see she's almost my age. Ariana shouted, addressing only her father and pretending that she wasn't around that unpleasant person. Emma, who was stomping around, decided to jump in. Well, first of all, I'm almost 30. And secondly, your dad and I are tired of living in rented apartments at a time when he has such a big house. Emma, shut up, Mickey grumbled. I'll talk to my daughter myself. But yes, Ariana, Emma is right. Even though Grandma willed this house to you, you realize I have more rights to it. So Emma and I will take the big bedroom. The same bedroom you and Mom used to sleep in until she got sick. Yeah, the same one. So what? Ariana, look, Mom's gone, and I'm not an old man, and I'm not gonna bury myself. Emma and I are planning to get married. Isn't that a little soon? 3 months, Dad. At least you waited a year. You don't know how sick I feel right now. And you came here. Why shouldn't we live in this house? Emma stepped in again. You got this house illegally. Your grandmother was out of her mind. I told Mickey he should contest the will. Shut up, Emma, shouted Mickey, but it was too late. Oh, so that's it. Ariana went off on a tangent. Did you tell Mickey? That's how long you've been seeing each other. Traitor, vile traitor. Ariana pushed her father out of the way and whirled off to her room, slamming the door loudly. Emma, what are you doing? The man hissed at his beloved. I told you to be quiet. I'll take care of everything myself. Emma shrugged her shoulders and said, It's all right. She'll have to accept it. Where will she go? Let's go eat. The dumplings are probably already boiled. Ariana ran into her room and collapsed on the bed. She was short of breath with indignation. So that's how it was. He'd been messing around with this Emma when Grandma died, since she'd been giving her advice on the will. Mom had just found out about her illness at the time, and he'd gone straight to the side. The next day, the girl left for work early, trying not to run into either her father or this Emma in the house. However, all through the working day, she had been berating herself for it. What on earth is she doing in her own house acting like a thief? That's not the way it should be. This is her home, not this imposter's. And she, Ariana, should behave like a hostess, not Emma. Barry was waiting for her after work as usual. Ariana, why don't you come over to my house tonight? Mom promised me a cake. It's getting a little cold out there. No, Barry, I'm going straight home tonight. I gotta let that Emma girl know I'm not gonna hide from her. I'm gonna walk around, watch TV in the living room. I'm just gonna act like I always do. I shouldn't have sneaked out this morning. I can't believe Dad would do that. What do you want, Ariana? Your dad's got a point. He's not an old man yet and shouldn't have to live alone for the rest of his life. You think so too? The girl got mad. Do you think it's normal to bring another wife home 3 months after a funeral? You better keep quiet, or we'll have a fight. Barry, seeing how angry his girlfriend was, decided that it was better not to escalate now. Ariana entered the house noisily. She threw her shoes on and, stomping loudly on purpose, went straight to the living room. Entering the living room, the girl was stunned. On the floor was a large box, in which were already stacked photos and Mom's things, and Emma at the same time removed from the wall her portrait. What are you doing? Ariana shouted in a low voice. Get your filthy paws off Mom's portrait. Emma was confused and froze like that, with her hands outstretched in the air. She's gone. We live here now. Mickey came running from the other room and knew what was wrong. Ariana, Emma's right. Look around, there's pictures of your mother everywhere, her things. And we're a new family and Emma's not comfortable with that. I don't care what Emma's uncomfortable with. If she tries to touch my mom's stuff again, I'll rip her hands off. This place stays the way it was. You hear me? You will not touch anything. Emma lowered her hands and looked questioningly from Mickey to Ariana, not knowing what to do next. The man saw how furious her daughter was and realized it was useless to argue at this point. Ariana is ready to fight Emma. Okay, Ariana, whatever you say. Mickey raised his palms in a soothing gesture. Let the portrait stay where it is, but these pictures here. Nothing, I said. It'll be just as it was in Mama's time. I don't know, Emma shrugged her shoulder. We're going to live in a mausoleum. It's up to you, but I don't want to live with pictures of my ex-wife and a dead woman. Emma stuck her chin up and strode out of the room with her shoulders squared. Ariana wanted to throw something at her back. Mickey darted after his date. Ariana was left alone in the room. Her heart was racing. The girl went to the box and pulled out a framed picture of the three of them. Dad, Mom, and little Ariana in her father's arms. Ariana fondly ran her hand over the glass behind which her mom was smiling. Mommy, I won't let them. I won't let them erase the memories of you. Emma and Mickey legalized their relationship 6 months after Julia's death. The man didn't hesitate to rent a restaurant and invite his friends. That's not the way to do it. Ariana refused to go to the wedding, although by that time she had started to communicate with Emma. Living in the same house, the girl had to do it. On the day of the wedding, a dressed-up Barry came to Ariana in the morning. So, Ariana, have you thought of going to your father's wedding? Why should I? The girl was indignant. Are you crazy, Barry? Of course I'm not going. Why are you dressed up? I don't know. Maybe you change your mind and we go together. No, what do you want? They're living together anyway. So why don't they get married? It's indecent. Mom's only been gone 6 months, and he's already starting a new marriage. Shameless. How can he not be ashamed of himself in front of people? You don't know everything, Ariana. They have to sign. The guy's hesitating. You know something? The girl squinted her eyes. Come on, spit it out. There's no point in fidgeting. All right, I'll tell you. Barry exhaled. Your dad and I were talking the other day, about a week ago, when you were in your room getting dressed and I was having tea with him and Emma. Well, that's when your dad told me that Emma's pregnant, but they don't know how to tell you. They're afraid of your reaction, so they told me to do it. Emma's pregnant. Dad's 47 years old. He doesn't need to be a young dad. Emma's only 30. Of course, she wants a full family. Ariana, who was washing the dishes left over from dinner, threw a sponge into the sink in frustration. A family, you say? He wants a family. What were me and Mom to him? They will have a child, will live and enjoy life in this house, in which my mother was so recently so tortured. No, it's all very unfair. The girl wrinkled her nose and pressed her palm to her forehead. Barry, seeing how upset she was, gently suggested, why don't we go out? Since we're not going to the wedding, why stay at home on a day off? We'll go to a cafe, then we'll go to my mom's. Yeah, you're right. Ariana suddenly agreed. I don't want to be home today. I don't want to see their happy faces when they get back. We'll probably spend the night at your place, and then... Ariana thought for a moment, tilting her head, and then she suddenly blurted out, Barry, how would you like to move in here and start living together? At last, exclaimed the delighted Barry, will you marry me? Not exactly, Ariana corrected him gently. We'll just live together and get to know each other. At least for a year. There are so many couples out there who get married in a hurry and then divorce just as quickly. Why do we have to make the same mistakes? I know I don't want to divorce you, Barry said. But whatever. Living together is a great option too. That's settled, Ariana rejoiced. Pack your things and move in here one of these days. It's a big house and they shouldn't have sole control of it. Ariana, I don't understand, the boy frowned. Do you want to live with me? Or do you want to annoy the newlyweds? Never mind. I want to live with you, period. Well, I'm going to get dressed and let them wash their own dishes. The girl looked at the unwashed plates. Ariana came home only the next evening. She and Lesha decided to get down to the business of moving. They packed the guy's things, equipment, and Barry also expressed a desire to take his favorite computer desk with him. So they had a lot of stuff and had to hire a gazelle. Happy Barry and Ariana drove the gazelle to the house in the evening. The girl entered first and found her father and his new wife in the living room. Dad, Barry and I have decided to live together. He's moving in here. What's that? The girl stammered half-heartedly, looking around the room. Where's Mom's portrait? Where's her chair? Mickey froze tensely. Emma was about to answer, but before she could, Ariana jumped out of the room and ran all over the house. She opened the closet in Mom's bedroom. It was a gaping hole of empty shelves. Nor was the bed where Julia had died. Where is everything? Ariana screamed. Where did you put all of Mom's things? We moved them out, smirked Emma, who had come in after the girl. We took them to the welfare center. They'll distribute them to low-income people. They'll be used. It's better than dust on the shelves. What? What did you do? Ariana turned around nervously, ready to grab Emma's throat. How dare you? I warned you. Enough already, Emma declared. Vidya and I are family. I don't know if your Barry told you or not, but we're having a baby, and I'm not raising it in a dead woman's mausoleum. Ariana stared at Emma with her eyes bulging, and then Mickey came up to the girls. Ariana, we're right, we can't do this. Yes, we can't. Emma was getting more and more gleeful, seeing that Ariana was silent. This is our home too. Your home? Ariana exploded. What did you say? No, this is not your house. This house is mine. I've already accepted that you live here, that you're going to have a baby. The only thing I asked you to do was not to touch Mom's things. Where's her portrait? Where are all the pictures? Don't worry, Ariana. We didn't throw the pictures away, Mickey fussed. They're right here in the bottom drawer of the dresser. And the portrait is behind the closet. What's going on? Barry came in with 2 big bags. What's all the noise? Mickey, do you have a problem with me living with Ariana? Should I unload my stuff? Unload it, Ariana nodded. Just don't let the gazelle go. It'll come in handy tonight. Dad and his new wife are moving out. What do you mean they're moving out? Emma didn't understand. But Mickey, who immediately understood his daughter, pushed his wife aside and came over to Ariana and put his arm around her shoulders. Ariana, don't be stupid, please. I'm your father and this is my house too. You can't kick us out. Yes, I can. Grandma left the house to me. Maybe she foresaw what would happen, knowing you well. I only asked you for one thing, and you didn't listen to me. How dare you? Mom's favorite dresses, who will wear them now? Ariana wanted to cry, but she tried to control herself and insisted firmly. I've already told you and my decision is final. Pack up and leave. You don't live here anymore. You have no right, Emma shrieked. I do. Legally, I do. And if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll call the police. Ariana, let's calm down and we'll talk about this tomorrow, Dad said. And I am calm. No, I'm furious, of course. But I will not change my decision, neither tomorrow nor the day after tomorrow. I didn't like that you brought her here, but I accepted it. Now it's over. Either you move out or I call the police, show them the deed to the house. And then me and Lesha will just throw out all your stuff. It was pouring like a bucket outside. When Mickey went down to the subway, the rain was just beginning to drizzle, but when he got to the station and climbed up to the surface, the man was even a little confused. How was he going to get home? He had no umbrella with him. There was no point in waiting. It was obvious that the rain had been falling for a long time, so he'd have to get wet. Mickey sped down the street toward home, muttering curses to himself about the car that wouldn't start this morning, about Emma, and about life in general. From the subway station to the rented apartment was a 5-minute walk at a brisk pace, and during that time the man managed to get soaked to the skin. Running into the courtyard of a 9-story building, he glanced irritably at his crossover standing in the parking lot. Of course, the car needed maintenance, investment. Mickey had always been proud of his car and had long ago realized that the starter had to be replaced. What was about to happen happened. The car refused to start in the morning. The man ran into the entrance and, leaving puddles on the floor behind him, waddled to the elevator. The water was sloshing around in one shoe. When he entered the apartment, Mickey took off his shoes and tossed them aside. Emma, he shouted from the doorway, I need new shoes. The soles are sticking off. I'll stop by the store before work tomorrow, so don't count on the rest of my paycheck. With these words, the man went into the only room of the apartment they were renting. The room was quite spacious, but still, it was necessary to sleep and spend leisure time in it, and the baby would be born soon. Emma was lying on the bed with her hands on her big belly watching TV. When she heard her husband's words, she clumsily sat up and answered indignantly, What do you mean? To not count on the rest of the salary, you still have 30,000 left. Are you going to buy shoes made of gold? Of course, natural. I'm not going to wear cheap shoes. And I need money for my car. I gotta buy a new starter. I can't take the subway. People ride the subway and nothing happens to them, Emma muttered. And anyway, she raised her voice. How many times do I have to talk about your car? You drive such an expensive car, and we live in a rented apartment. I'm telling you, we should sell it, and then we'll have a mortgage payment. We can get a normal apartment, and most importantly, our own. I'm sick of this talk, Mickey shouted. I told you 100 times, I'm not selling the car. I have a house. Ariana has a temper, but she's resilient. I'll go see her again one of these days. What's the point? She won't let us in anymore. She even discharged you. What's there to talk about? Besides, I don't want to live in a house with someone else running it. Mickey, we're having a baby and we should have our own place. And this house is yours to say goodbye to. It's never gonna be yours again. I'll tell you what, Mickey got mad. You want your own place, buy it. Don't even look at my car. Have you made dinner? Emma stood up heavily from the bed with her hands on her lower back and her big belly jutting out. Mickey, you didn't even ask me how I was feeling today. Pregnancy isn't a disease. The man frowned. I take it, from what you're saying, there's no dinner again. What kind of woman are you? My ex always had time for everything, even when she was sick. You're poking me with your ex again. The woman squealed. I don't want to hear about her anymore. She was so nice, and that's why he kept coming back to me. I didn't love her, yes, but Julia was a good housekeeper, not like you. Oh yeah, Emma yelled. You want a housewife? Look at yourself. You're supposed to provide for me. And what do I have? The baby's coming, and we have no crib, no stroller. We live in a rented one-bedroom, but you drive an expensive car and are going to buy yourself natural shoes. I see you're not used to denying yourself anything. That's what you should think about. Fuck you, Mickey said in an angry tone and turned around and went to the bathroom, pulling off his wet clothes on the way. The man was so sick of these scandals with Emma. Before, when he just visited her while living with his wife, Emma hadn't been like this. She'd been a soft pussycat, but now she was a saw, always dissatisfied with everything and always demanding something from him. He's not gonna sell this car, no matter how much she squeals. A real man should have a nice car to emphasize his status. Julia, she never demanded anything. Now Mickey could clearly see the advantages of living with her. Too bad she was sick, or we'd still be living like this. He could have had a lot of women like Emma, but he didn't plan to leave her at first, until Julia got sick. Comfortable life with his wife suited Mickey, and he expected to get the same from Emma. But the girl turned out to be quite different in character. Thinks only of herself and takes care of herself, lying on the bed all day long. Mickey was seething with anger as he drew himself a hot bath and undressed, and when he got into it, he tried to relax. It didn't work. This lime-stained bathtub, the cracked tile on the walls, everything here was foreign to him. He wanted to go home. Ariana, what a bastard. The man still couldn't believe his daughter would do such a thing, kick him out of his own home. Mickey had thought of contesting the will, but it had been a long time since the will had been entered into, and his daughter had worked as a judge's assistant and had probably made some connections. The man realized that the case would be a loser, but it was becoming unbearable to live like this. Emma, unlike Julia, is constantly pissing him off, demanding money without earning anything herself. And Mickey has his own needs: clothes, car, gasoline. Plus, he's paying for this apartment all by himself, and there's a baby on the way. Mickey was already regretting agreeing to Emma's pregnancy. At the time, it seemed like things would be different. He wanted an heir. With an only daughter, Mickey wanted a boy. This, in principle, almost came true. An ultrasound wife clearly told that she has a boy. But as it did not please Mickey, this news in the light of recent events and domestic difficulties. The man lay with his eyes closed, and the water in the bathtub began to cool down. He'd have to go out and cook for himself. His stomach sucked as if he was eating himself. And then Emma's hysterical screaming came from the room. Mickey, Mickey, come here, urgently, ah. Mickey barked, getting out of the bath and hastily drying himself with a bath towel. Then wrapped that towel around his hips and went into the room. Emma was lying on the bed with her legs tucked under her and hugging her stomach. She was squealing incessantly. "Mickey, it hurts. I think I'm going into labor. Call an ambulance." The wife's shrill falsetto cut his ears. The man wrinkled his nose. "What kind of labor, Emma?" "Not yet. Just bear with it for a while. Maybe it'll pass." "I'm telling you something's wrong. Call an ambulance quickly." Emma yelled in a fury. "Okay, I'll call an ambulance right away," Mickey muttered, and went to the hallway where he had left his phone on the nightstand. His irritation was building. The ambulance was coming, so he'd have to get dressed and he'd be hungry again. And he wanted to eat something hot and stretch his legs on the couch. He was so sick of Emma and this life. Ariana and Barry, holding hands, skipped merrily out of the beautiful building with registry office in big letters on the door. They had just applied for marriage, and in a month they would be husband and wife. Barry was more excited than the girl. He was the one who had long insisted on legalizing the relationship, and Ariana was satisfied with everything. Now the girl gave in to the joyful mood of the guy, laughed and behaved like a schoolgirl. Probably, Alyosha was right to insist on marriage. After all, they had been living together for a long time, and now they would officially become a family. A family. Ariana had missed it so much. After she had kicked her father and his wife out of the house, he had tried several times to talk to her, to butter her up. The man really wanted to come home. However, Ariana was adamant. Dislike for her father had been accumulating in the girl like a snowball since her mother's illness, when Ariana saw his indifferent attitude. Having brought Emma into the house 3 months after his wife's death, Mickey had added fuel to the fire burning in his daughter's heart, and the last drop came when he and his wife got rid of her mother's things. Since then, Ariana had felt almost a hatred for her father and could admit it to herself. It was unpleasant for the girl to see Mickey to talk to him. Ariana could see the falseness and selfishness behind his goodwill. The smile slipped from Ariana's face when she thought of her father, but Barry stopped abruptly, holding her hand. "What are you doing?" She turned around. "Look," showed the guy with his eyes on the glass window, behind which you could see appetizing pastries, eclairs, your favorite. "There are tables here and you can get coffee from the vending machine. Why don't we go in and celebrate the application?" Yes, Ariana smiled again, putting thoughts of her father out of her mind. The eclairs were lush and delicious. The girl, devouring them, smeared herself with cream, and Barry gently wiped it off her face with a napkin. One of the sales girls admired them, elbowing the other. "Look, youth, love. Where are my 17 years? But these are not 17, they'll be older." "It doesn't matter. It's still love," sighed the sales girl. At that time, Barry returned to the question that had been bothering him. "Ariana, you and I still haven't decided how we're going to celebrate our wedding. A restaurant, that's expensive." "I told you, Barry, Mom left me money for the wedding. I can pay for the restaurant. But you know, I've been thinking. I don't have a lot of family, but I could go to a cafe with my college friends. Maybe we won't be fancy. We'll get married and use my mom's money to go on a wedding trip." The guy's out of breath. "Are you saying Mom left you so much that we have enough for a trip? Just like that, overseas?" Enough, Ariana laughed. "I know that's what Mom would have wanted. She herself has dreamed of traveling all her life, but it hasn't come true. She'd be happy for me and wouldn't mind using her money like this." Barry looked at the glowing Ariana with bulging eyes and, choosing his words carefully, said softly, "Ariana, I realize it's none of my business and none of my money, but still, you and I will soon be man and wife. Will you tell me how much money you have?" "I'll tell you why not. My mom left me $1 million, the girl said carelessly. "Wow." The guy opened his mouth. "And you want to spend that kind of money on a trip? A simple trip?" "Well, first of all, not a simple trip, but a wedding trip. And secondly, it's not all going to be spent. It's still a lot of money, and if you don't spend it, you can find more rational uses for it." "Like what?" "I don't even know how to tell you," Barry hesitated and decided to start from afar. "Look, Ariana, I work as a driver, and yet we walk together. I'm a cobbler without boots. Since I was 18 years old, I've dreamed of having a car, but my mother, as you noticed, is a poor woman, and on my salary I can't afford it. But now imagine if you and I buy a car with this money to work on it. from work too. In the evening in the city to drive around, to go wherever we want. Yes, even in the neighboring city to get a ride is not a problem. Shopping again. Just imagine how our lives will change. Seeing the surprise in the girl's eyes, Barry hastened to add, "Of course, the car will be registered to you. It's your money, I understand." Ariana carefully put a paper cup with unfinished coffee on the table and looked at her future husband confusedly. "I don't know, Barry. I never thought about it. You know, I don't have a driver's license, and I've never even wanted to. And if we buy a car, we won't have money for a wedding or a trip. So be it. We'll celebrate modestly in a cafe, like you said. We'll have time for traveling," Barry urged her fervently. "Okay, I'll think about it," replied Ariana. But Barry could see that the girl began to hesitate, and he could convince her. Ariana dragged the guy to the park. She wanted to take a walk in the fresh air. The boy had lost his spirit and was not listening to what the girl was saying. He plunged into thinking about the car. In the end, the couple decided to go home, stopping by the grocery store on the way to buy something for dinner. They opted for chicken. Ariana decided to bake it whole in the oven, which she did when they got home. Barry didn't help, though he had come into the kitchen with her. He picked up the cell phone and busied himself studying car ads. "Ariana, look, how about this one? It's gorgeous, isn't it? And you know, we can afford it, but it's underpriced. It's suspicious. It's probably beat up." Ariana frowned. "Barry, I haven't agreed to buy the car yet. I'm going to think about it." "You think about it," the boy said, "but I'm just dreaming." "Can I dream?" He flashed a smile at the girl. "Dream," Ariana exhaled. But after a few minutes, she was infected with the enthusiasm of the guy and sat down next to him, resting her head on his shoulder. She started looking at the cars too. And why not? Thought Ariana. A car is an investment. It can also be sold later. Barry's eyes are burning. He's been dreaming about it for a long time. "I'm making a good salary for this town. So what's the point of having money lying around? Barry, why are you only looking at used cars? We don't have enough money for a new one." "If only for a domestic, but I would like a foreign car," said Barry. Suddenly, the phone vibrated and came to life in the guy's hands. A call came in and Ariana, who was sitting next to him, saw that it was her father calling Barry. She jerked her head sharply up from her fiance's shoulder. "What is this? Why is he calling you? Are you two communicating?" "He called a couple times, asking about your mood." "Pick up the phone and put it on speaker." Ariana nodded at the phone. The guy did as she said. "Barry, hi. I'm not calling Ariana. She won't pick up anyway. I'm at the gate. Can you come out here?" Ariana went to her father's house with Barry. Even though she didn't want to see Mickey, she was very curious as to why he was here again. The man was standing near the gate, smoking a cigarette nervously. When he saw his daughter coming out, he seemed to get even more agitated as the fingers holding the cigarette began to shake. "Ariana, hi. It's good that you came out together. I can't get home. You took away my keys." "Why did you come here?" the girl asked me assertively. "What do you want again?" "I want to go home alone," Mickey blurted out, and throwing away his cigarette, began to stomp it furiously with the tip of his shoe. Ariana looked down at his feet and noticed that the sole of his shoe was peeling off. "Wow, my fancy dad in tattered shoes," ran a sarcastic thought through the girl's mind. "This isn't your home anymore and you can't come back here. I'm tired of telling you that. And at the same time, I wonder why alone. Where's Emma?" Mickey, before he could put out one cigarette butt, started shaking a new cigarette out of the pack. Then he lit it for a long time, choosing his words. "Emma's in the hospital. By the way, you had a brother, Ariana. But it doesn't matter now. I'm just now realizing that they can't be my family. I don't want to live with them. My family is you, and your mom used to be my family." "Shut up," Ariana, who had seemed calm at first, boiled up. "Not one word about mom. Now it seems to me we were never your family. Even grandma, your own mom, you were the one who didn't want to take care of her and didn't look after her. It's like you were glad when she was gone. And Ma, I've been thinking so much about what we did wrong. If you had helped her more with grandma, helped around the house, maybe she would have had time to go to the hospital sooner and she'd be alive now. Have you ever thought about that?" "No, of course not. Why would I?" You're always thinking about yourself. Now you got a son and you're going to leave her and Emma. Do you have any idea how disgusting that looks from the outside? You really expect me to let you in this house? For the 1,000th time, go away and don't come back here. I don't want to know you anymore. Barry, let's go home. Ariana tugged at the sleeve of the guy who hadn't participated in the conversation. Mickey stood staring in exasperation at the gate closing in front of his nose, not noticing the bullwhip burning his fingers. What a nasty girl. She's both like Julia and not at the same time. Dashka never had such a nasty temper. The man threw away the filter that had left a burn on his fingers and with the gait of a beaten dog, walked away. It was safe to go back to the rental apartment for now. Emma wasn't there anyway. Tomorrow morning, he would work on fixing the car. As soon as the car is fixed, he'll put his stuff in it and move out. Mickey didn't tell his daughter the whole truth now, just part of it. He actually had a son, but it was unknown how long that child would live. Amid the scandal, Emma went into premature labor, but the man thought it was her own fault. There was nothing to be so hysterical about. When the ambulance took his wife away, Mickey didn't go with them. What would I do there? He answered the paramedic's question with a question. They won't let me go into labor with her anyway. She'll call me herself. Emma called 24 hours later. She was sobbing so hard that at first the man couldn't make out anything she was saying. So I don't get it, you had the baby? A boy. Then why are you whining? Mickey, the woman whined into the phone. Come and talk to the doctor. I don't understand what he's telling me. I think there's something wrong with our son. They didn't even show him to me. They took him straight to intensive care. Come on over, Mickey. I'll be right there. The man hung up the phone and, cursing his wife, called a cab. What an idiot Emma is. She can't understand. What could be wrong with the boy? They took him away, most likely because he was premature, and this fool is roaring. Mickey comforted himself with such thoughts, but he was still worried. And after talking to the head doctor of the maternity ward, this anxiety turned into terror, panic, horror. Mickey left the office as if drunk and without even remembering Emma waiting for him, headed for the elevator. He walked briskly out of the hospital gates and down the street, not knowing where he was going. In his head, he was thinking of some fragments of phrases said by the head doctor. The boy was born with the most serious heart defect, urgently needs an operation. It is not known how long the child will live without it. Such operations are done in Germany. Do you have the money? Surgery. Disease? Money. Mickey leaned against the iron fence of the hospital and clutched his head with his hands, ignoring the perplexed looks of passersby. How familiar and how tiresome it all was. First Mom, then Julia, now the baby. What is this curse on him? That he is surrounded by sick people? And why does he have to solve all this? With Julia it was all easier. She did not demand anything, quietly dying before his eyes, looking at him with a dog's eyes. But Emma's not like that. She'll demand that he decide everything. But he's not omnipotent. That's where he's going to get the money for the treatment in Germany. And even if he had the money, it's not worth spending it on a child he knows is sick. We don't know if the operation will help him. And why should he do it? Because he hates illness and everything that comes with it. It's Emma's fault she gave birth to a sick kid. And Mickey was already having a hard enough time living with her. Yeah, well, he was thinking of leaving Emma, so why not do it now? He doesn't need this trouble, he can't stand it. He doesn't want to. Mickey grinned fiercely. Well, so be it. Let everyone think I'm scum, though who's everyone? Only Emma, but I don't care what she thinks. Ariana won't even know about the child's illness. Remembering his daughter, the man realized where he had to go. He pulled away from the fence and headed for the bus stop, determined to try and make it home one more time. In the pocket of his expensive coat, his cell phone rang incessantly. There was no need for the man to take it out of his pocket. He already knew who was calling him. Emma, of course. She was worried, freaking out, but he didn't want to know anymore. In vain, Emma called her husband again and again. He wouldn't pick up. Then her husband's phone either went dead or he turned it off. The woman's head was spinning. She plucked up the courage to get out of the hospital bed and went to the head doctor to talk to her of herself. I just explained everything to your husband. He left my office about 15 minutes ago. Did you see him? The old woman was surprised. What? What did you explain to my husband? I didn't understand anything. Tell me again. Why is my boy in intensive care? The head doctor described the situation again. Clear, concise words that made Emma want to cry, but she held on. Here's how. I need money to keep my son alive. And you told my husband that. It makes sense to me. He went looking for it. What am I supposed to do? What to do? Shrugged her shoulders. If you feel normal in 3 days, we will discharge you. Without the child, noticing Emma's mute question, she immediately said, the boy will remain in intensive care. He is under the machine. Let's hope that the issue with the operation will be resolved quickly, because we do not know how long the baby will last without it. Emma wanted to believe that her husband was looking for money and searching for a way out, but he had not contacted her for 3 days. And when the woman was discharged and arrived at the apartment where they lived, she found neither her husband nor his belongings there. Ariana was at work, but could not concentrate. She was constantly distracted by the beeping phone, which was receiving pictures of cars. Barry was the one who sent them incessantly. Doesn't Barry have any work at all? Thought Ariana irritably. He doesn't do anything and he's distracting me. He's gone crazy with his car. He can't make a choice and he's bugging me. The landline phone on the desk rang shrilly. Ariana shuddered, remembering that once again she had forgotten to turn down the volume on it. It was the security guard sitting on the first floor at the entrance to the courthouse. Ariana, there's a girl asking for you. Pretty insistent. Could you come down here, please? Puzzled as to who it could be, Ariana went down to the first floor and was very surprised to see the visitor. Surprised not even that Emma had come to see her, but at how she looked. Emma had no makeup on, her hair was messy, tucked into a ponytail, and she had lost a lot of weight since Ariana had last seen her. Dad staying with you? Emma didn't say hello. Let's go outside, Ariana said, not wanting to get into an argument in front of the guard who had his ears perked up. They stepped out onto the high porch of the courthouse. What happened there and why did you come to me looking for your husband? Doesn't he live with you? I thought. Where else would he go? He left us when he found out his son was born with a heart defect. He left us. What heart defect? Ariana exclaimed involuntarily. He didn't tell me anything about it. Yes, he came to ask to go home. He said he had a son. Naturally, I wouldn't let him in. And he didn't tell me anything about the child's illness. He just ran away. He just ran away. Emma was hysterical. I came back from the hospital and the apartment was empty. His things were gone. So you were discharged from the hospital. And who did you leave the baby with now? Aren't you listening to me? My son is sick. He's in intensive care under a machine. He needs an emergency operation, which costs a lot of money. It's an operation that can only be done in Germany. As soon as Mickey found out he was gone, Emma was wringing her hands. Ariana was in shock. What a bastard, she whispered. How could you do this to people? First his grandmother, then his mother, now his own child. And you, what were you looking at? If a man comes to you from his dying wife, how can he be normal? How can you rely on a man like that? You're not far from him yourself, if you're involved with a married man. I didn't know he was married at first. I found out when I was already stuck in that relationship. And he kept telling me that they were living badly, that they'd soon get divorced. And I didn't find out about your mother's illness until after she died. It's true, Ariana. I knew Mickey was pretty unscrupulous, but not like this. That's his son. And your brother, by the way. You hear me, brother? Emma grabbed Ariana's forearms with fervor. Ariana, I'll be allowed to visit him today. Come with me. Let's go see your little brother. Why? Ariana pulled away. She was so cold, walking outside in her blouse, but for some reason she couldn't turn around and walk away from this almost insane woman. Why do I have to go there? She asked again. Well, of course. What if? What if he's gone? You'll never see your brother again. What do you mean he'll be gone? How can you say that? Look for money. There are charities, go to them. I already did. But it takes time, and my son may not have that time. Ariana, at least look at his pictures. It's hard to see. They won't let me get close, but look how cute he is. My boy. Emma flipped through the pictures on her phone with a finger with a nibbled manicure. Okay, stop being hysterical, Ariana said sternly. You shouldn't be acting like this right now. You have to pull yourself together, find the means, save the baby, and don't rely on your father. He won't help you. He's always been like this. It's a pity Mom didn't see it sooner. You should have known that when you married him. Ariana went back to the courthouse and went up to her floor, sat down at her desk. She couldn't work. It was heavy on her heart, sick with the father's behavior and heavy with thoughts of the child. Emma didn't calm down and started sending Ariana pictures of the boy. Ariana opened one of them, enlarged it. It's not a good look. The baby is entangled in wires and tubes, lying behind glass. Such a tiny face. And he doesn't look like his father at all. Maybe a grandmother? Yes, that's right. The shape of his nose is exactly like his grandmother's. Ariana's heart ached. Maybe she should have gone to the hospital with Emma. So what if the father was a creep and Emma was such a creep? The baby wasn't guilty of anything, and he was really her brother. The phone screen flashed in the girl's hands. A new message popped up from Barry. A picture of a car and the caption, "Yay, I found it. We'll take this one." Car, baby, child, car. Ariana shifted her gaze from one picture to the next. She hadn't asked Emma how much money she needed for the surgery, but $1 million was not a small sum. What do you get? A baby brother's life for the price of a car? No. Ariana shook her head, shaking out the bad thoughts. I shouldn't be thinking about that. It's not my problem. Besides, that money is my mom's, and would she want to give it to a child born of cheating on her? The workday came to an end and Barry and Ariana took the bus home. All the way home, Barry gushed about the advantages of having a personal automobile. How, after they bought it, they'd be able to get home in style. And they wouldn't have to sit in the evening staring at the TV or walk the dank streets. They would be able to afford to drive all over the city. Ariana wasn't listening to her fiancé anymore. She was so sick of all this talk about the car. The girl was thoughtful all evening. She was silent or answered in a non-committal manner. When Barry asked the reason for her mood, Ariana gave him a brief outline of the situation. Well, that's news. Mickey's a real piece of work, Barry exclaimed. But what's that got to do with you? Why are you getting so worked up about this? It's Emma's problem now. You should have used your head. Ariana realized that it was Emma's problem, but the worry didn't let up until she was in bed and fell into a restless sleep. In her dream, Ariana dreamed of her mother, beautiful young, in her favorite dress. The two of them were walking along the riverbank and throwing pebbles into the still water. Julia was very cheerful at first, but suddenly becoming very serious. She brought her face close to her daughter's face and looked into her eyes. "Daughter, why do you think so badly of me?" "What?" Ariana was confused. "What makes you think that, Mom?" "You think very badly of me." Julia shook her head. "You know me better than anyone else in the world, so why?" shrieked the woman. Ariana jerked in the bed and woke up. A cold sweat came out on her forehead. The dream was imprinted so clearly in her mind, and the girl instantly realized what her mother had rebuked her for. Yes, of course, her mother would not hesitate to give this money for the boy's treatment. How could Ariana think otherwise of her? A light breeze blew in through the half-open car window, fanning Barry's hair. He rolled through the city carelessly, holding the wheel with one hand and catching envious glances from the exhausted people at the bus stops. Barry was so happy that he smiled involuntarily. And then a man in a traffic police uniform jumped out on the road, waved his baton in the direction of Lashina's car, and shrilly blew his whistle. Turning to the side of the road, the guy stopped, but the traffic police officer continued his unpleasant whistle. This whistle burst into Leshin's brain, irritated him, and twitching on the bed, the guy finally woke up. What had been a whistle in his dream turned out to be the sharp ringing of an alarm clock. Barry squeezed his eyes shut, wanting to go back to this wonderful dream and prolong the pleasant moments, but the ringing alarm clock did not give such an opportunity. "Ariana, turn it off. Ariana." The girl didn't answer. She wasn't in bed, next to her boyfriend, or in the room. Shit, is she deaf or what? Thought Barry, thinking that Ariana was in the kitchen making breakfast. He had to get up himself. The guy turned off the alarm clock that was annoying him and stretched sweetly. What a great dream he had, but nothing. Soon this dream would become reality. Barry decided to go to the bathroom first and then to the kitchen to see Ariana. But the silence in the house alerted him, and Barry, quickly walking through the rooms in search of his girlfriend, realized that she was not at home. That was very strange. Where could she have gone this early in the day? The guy did not have time to make any conclusions about it because the culprit of his thoughts burst into the house. Ariana flew in like a whirlwind, flushed from the morning frost but happy. "Barry, are you up already? I've been up since the middle of the night. I had a dream about Mom today and I realized what I had to do right. I wanted to wait till morning, but I couldn't. So I called a cab and I went to Emma's house last night." "Emma's? Why would you go to Emma's?" Barry was surprised. "I thought you were feuding with her. So what did you want at her place at night?" "I gave her my money for my brother's treatment. It's the right thing to do." "I don't get it." Barry blinked. "What kind of money is that?" Barry stopped talking. He began to realize and looked at Ariana with a hard look she had never seen on her boyfriend before. "Ariana, tell me you couldn't give me the money we were going to buy a car with. Tell me that." "I don't have any other money," Ariana shrugged nonchalantly. "Yeah, you got that right. I gave that money." Barry glanced sideways with a look unfamiliar to Ariana and took a step in her direction. "You couldn't do that? Are you stupid? We were going to buy a car with that money and you gave it to a woman who hates you to treat a kid who's a total stranger to you. That kind of money. What about our dream? What about the car, Ariana?" It was the first time the guy spoke to Ariana so harshly, and his look made her uncomfortable. The joyful mood with which the girl had entered the house was beginning to fade, and everything was going so well. Emma couldn't understand it at first either, when Ariana called her in the middle of the night and asked for her current address. When Ariana arrived and laid out the money in front of Emma, tied with a simple rubber band, Emma looked at her as dumbfounded as Barry had a few seconds before. "What is this? Where did this money come from?" The woman blinked her puffy eyes. Ariana explained. Emma didn't believe it, couldn't believe it. Then she threw herself around the girl's neck, crying, "Ariana, you're so. I'm so sorry for everything. I caused you so much worry, and you're—" "Come on, Em," sobbed Ariana too, from involuntary tears. "You told me yourself. That boy is my brother. I know Mom wouldn't mind. I'm guilty as hell in front of your mom. I realize that now. Now I'd have a chance, a real chance to save my boy. I got a call from the charity tonight saying they've raised part of the money. And now, with your money, the trip can become a reality." Emma, still hugging Ariana, pulled away, looked into her eyes. "Ariana, come to Germany with me, I beg you. I'm alone, all alone. I'm so scared. I have no one, and you're the closest person to us now. Let's go, please." Ariana agreed without hesitation. She wanted to be with her brother at this difficult moment. Then they sat with Emma until morning, discussing the upcoming trip, and together they chose a name for the boy. Ariana suggested naming him after her grandfather, Anthony, and Emma nodded in agreement. Yes, let him be named after a good man. Your grandfather was a good man, wasn't he? I like the name. Now my son isn't just a nameless boy in the ICU. He's Anthony, and he's waiting there for you and me." So after a night like that, Ariana came home in high spirits, and there was Barry. When he finally realized what his girlfriend had done, he started yelling at her. Stupid. You're going to go to Emma's and take our money from her right now. You're gonna tell her you changed your mind. You won't." "Then I will. I'll go to her right now. Give me the address." "No way." Ariana said, "No way. This is my decision and I won't change it. And a car is just a piece of iron, and it's not worth a human life, a child's life. We'll pay for it ourselves later." "Later when?" Barry kept yelling. "How long do you and I have to save up for it on our salaries? And here we have the money we needed in our hands. I've been dreaming of a car. I'd already picked it out." "That's right, you have. I never dreamed of it. And at the end of the day, I didn't give you an answer. I didn't promise. I just said I'd think about it." "Take the money from Emma, you idiot," Barry shrieked in a nasty falsetto. "Take it before it's too late." The girl looked at her fiancé as if seeing him for the first time. She didn't know Barry like that, and had no idea he could be like that. The boy, in a frenzy of rage, came close to Ariana and slapped her hard. He shoved her too. "Take the money," he kept saying. Ariana was scared. The girl had never faced a manhandling in her life. No matter what kind of scoundrel her father was, he had never raised a hand against her or her mother. The girl staggered to the hallway and then quickly sprinted outside. She ran away from the house holding her hand to her burning cheek. After walking a couple blocks, the girl pulled out her cell phone. She called Barry. "I hope you went to pick up the money." That was the first thing the guy said. "Forget about the money and forget about me too. I'm going to the police right now and file a battery report on you." "What beating? I only slapped you to bring you to your senses. By the time you get to the police, you won't even have red on your cheek." "Ariana, I got a little angry, but you have to understand me too. You've done something so stupid. It's not too late to get your money back. Think about it." "I have nothing to think about. I don't want to see you again, although I'll have to. But not for long, and I don't want to work next to you. You'll go and write your own letter of resignation today. You know how I am with everyone at the courthouse, and they don't like you. So either you quit or they're going to kick you out." Ariana hung up. Barry didn't show up for work that day. He sat at the girl's house, waiting for her return and hoping she'd back off. She's kind. But Ariana didn't come home alone. She walked in with a couple of her male institute friends. The girl didn't want to be alone with Barry for a second longer. Ariana's friends made Barry pack his things and forced him out of the house. Emma looked around the lobby of the German clinic with admiration. "Ariana, look at the level of everything here. And the equipment. They're going to save Anthony's life here." "Of course they will," smiled at the girls a young interpreter who led them around the clinic. "We have the best doctors. Now I'll introduce you to the doctor who will operate on your boy. Come on, he's waiting for us." The interpreter led the gaping Emma and Ariana to the right room. There was a young doctor in a snow-white robe with not a single crease on it waiting for them. He was very handsome and looked more like an actor playing a doctor than a real doctor. Emma, who thought that no one around except the interpreter could understand them, said the first thing that came into her head. "He's very young. We need a more experienced doctor." The doctor flashed a charming smile, which made Ariana's heart flutter, and said in plain English, "Don't worry, I have enough experience and this is not the first time I will perform such an operation." "Oh, you speak English?" Emma was embarrassed. "You'll excuse me, I didn't think." Emma fell silent, completely confused and not knowing what to say next. Ariana tried to save the situation. "You speak English so well, with no accent at all." "Of course," the doctor smiled again, "because I am an American. 5 years ago, I worked in Washington, and then I was invited to Germany to this clinic. I was appointed to do the operation on your boy, having learned that you are my compatriots. It will be easier for us to communicate. Once again, I ask you not to worry. I have experience. My name is Harry. Now let's discuss what we're going to do. We can't delay the operation. Today, our little patient will rest from the road and get all the necessary tests. We'll schedule the operation for tomorrow morning." Emma and Ariana left the young doctor's office encouraged. Harry appeared to be a serious, trustworthy doctor. He must be really good at what he did. There's a reason he was recruited to work here. I don't think this is the kind of clinic that attracts ordinary doctors from the US. Did you see the way he looked at you when he asked who the baby was? He couldn't take his eyes off you. He obviously liked you. Don't make it up. Ariana blushed, who had actually sensed Harry's interest herself. I'm not imagining anything. I'm just saying what I see. By the way, how's your Barry? Has he gotten off your back? Did he stop calling you? I don't know. I blacklisted him. Ariana frowned at the mention of Barry. Breaking up with him had been hard on her. Hard in the sense that he had followed her all the way to Germany. Under the pressure of Ariana, Barry left work, but every evening came to her home. The guy repented, apologized, said he loved her. He looked as good-natured as he had at the beginning of their acquaintance. But now Ariana knew his true face, saw when he called her names and hit her. Don't think about Barry anymore. Emma shushed Ariana when she saw her face change. Let's talk about the upcoming surgery in Nikita Borisovich. I so hope that everything will go well. It will, Ariana said confidently. 3 years passed. Emma walked down the street holding the hand of mischievous Anthony. The boy was eager to slip away from his mother and test the depth of the puddles with his shiny boots. "Anthony, don't be naughty. Don't jump in the puddles. Look, you're already soaking wet." Anthony did not obey and kept pulling his mother's hand in the direction of such attractive puddles. The boy was very active, and the only reminders of the former diagnosis were the hospital discharges stored in Ariana's house. Emma herself and her son now lived in this very house. Now they were returning there after a walk. As they entered the house, Emma sighed heavily as she looked at the mess made by her restless son. "So Anthony, now I'll feed you quickly and you'll play in your room," the woman ordered. "We have to clean and wash everything, because Aunt Ariana is coming from Germany soon." "She's already here," came a cheerful voice from the front door. Emma turned around and saw Ariana and Harry coming through the unlocked door. "Ariana, how could it be?" the woman said. "You said you'd be here in a couple days, and you're here sooner. Aren't you glad?" "I'm glad, very glad. I just didn't have time to clean up. Anthony is like a hurricane." "You don't have to clean up. It's fine here. Besides, we might have to sell the house." Are you sure you haven't changed your mind about moving in with your new man?" "How is he new? We've been together for 1.5 years, and he's been talking me into it for years. He's so responsible, reliable, the opposite of your father, Ariana." "I'll introduce you." "Of course you will," Ariana hummed. "How's your father? Haven't you heard from him in a while?" "I haven't heard from him. He shows up from time to time. Now that he's realized he doesn't need to treat the baby anymore, and he has a healthy and happy son. Especially when Mickey found out we were living in this house. I barely got him off my back. I'm not going to make the same mistake again. Mickey's been with 2 women since me, but he can't get along with anyone. And mind you, both of those women kicked him out. I guess they were more perceptive than me and your mom. Figured it out right away. Well, why are we all standing at the door? Come on in. I'll feed you. Where's your luggage?" While Emma set the table, Ariana went into the nursery. She came into the kitchen with Anthony in her arms. "Why are you carrying him?" Emma smiled. "He's a big boy now. He's quite heavy." "He's not heavy," Ariana laughed. "He's like the nicest burden in the world. Isn't he, Anthony? I miss him so much. When are you going to come out here?" Harry walked over to Ariana and took the baby from her arms. "I miss my favorite patient too. Anthony, give your uncle a hug. He's your savior. He did your surgery," Emma said to the baby who didn't understand such wise words. Harry brushed it off, playing with Anthony, and Emma fawned over him. Wow, how lucky Ariana was to have met someone like him. That's what fate was all about, to go to a foreign country and meet her other half there. The spark between the young Dr. Harry and Ariana was immediate. Even Emma noticed it the first time they met, and things between the two of them had swiftly come to a head. The young knew they had little time. Ariana would have to leave. But it was immediately clear that they were close in spirit, understanding each other half-heartedly. When Ariana returned to the U.S. with her brother and Emma, Harry rushed back, unable to bear the separation. And so strong were the feelings between them that Ariana quit her job, left home, and went with him to Germany. Now the girl received a second higher education, now a medical degree. Ariana realized that her vocation is also to help people, as her husband helps. They became husband and wife with Harry a year ago. Emma could not go to their wedding, finances did not allow, but Anthony was growing up and already started to go to kindergarten, so the time was not far off when Emma would be able to go to work. Plus, she'd met a man, not rich, older than herself, but reliable. So life is getting better. All of us are getting better, Emma thought aloud. "Tell me about it," Ariana exclaimed. "You know, Emma, I'm working at the clinic now. Harry helped me. It's just reception, but I'm learning and gaining experience. You should know how much I love medicine. Someday I'll be able to treat people, relieve their suffering." "I don't doubt that," Emma smiled. "You know, I curse myself for getting involved with Mickey, but I met you. You've made me and Anthony a better family, and you've changed me. I wasn't like that before. I was more like your father. I've often thought that if I'd been in your shoes back then, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't have given you the money." "That's enough, girls," Harry said sternly. "There's nothing to remember about the bad things. Let's better think about what plans we have for this visit." "Ariana, It's probably time to decide about the house, said Emma. Have you changed your mind about selling it? Yes, I am. I'm very much thinking about it. I just wandered through the rooms. It's all so familiar. I feel like I'm about to hear my mom's voice. On the other hand, I can't leave the house. Without people, it'll fall into disrepair. Why don't we get lodgers? Harry suggested it. You and I have time. Let's find some family-oriented, positive tenants. They'll keep an eye on the house and Emma can come and visit once in a while. Yes, that's what we'll do, Ariana nodded, looking lovingly around the house.